Ready. Play.
Oh, Owen, this is a bit random because I'm sure you've been talking about different things in the last 5 minutes while I was gone. But there was a tweet from you that I wanted to speak to you about. I think I tried to respond to it, but I don't know if I don't think I ever clicked send. And it was basically on Sabalenka. Did you say something in the last 24 hours about, it's hers to lose, or she should win the tournament, or she's the favorite to get to something about Sabalenka, and it was positive, but then you caveated it with a unless she runs into these semi-final or final issues, right?
Yeah, so I think the tweet was Sabalenka in tennis terms is the best player in the world because what holds her back is she chokes a lot in semifinals and finals. Like I think when she's on, she's just unstoppable. And funnily enough, I actually have Coco winning this tournament. I don't think Sabalenka is the favorite, but yeah, I mean, Sabalenka's avoided any trouble in the early rounds whatsoever. Anisimova used to give her issues, beat her really comfortably. I don't think they're really like if someone were to say like who is Sabalenka kryptonite, I don't really think there's an answer to that besides like her own mind and sometimes her serve. And I think all the other top players kind of have issues that she does not have. So from that standpoint, like I do think her game is the best in the world right now.
I'm okay with you on all of that, but each single point that you made there, I'm a little bit like, is there a kryptonite for her? I mean, Iga has to be the one on an average day who's the one. I know, what's their head-to-head? I don't know. I'm going to guess like 5-2, something like that. 5-3 maybe. So it's close. It's not Ostapenko, Iga-esque, if you like. I get that. Maybe Rybakina is on a bit of a run. Again, you look at the big picture and it's like, I don't know, 4-all their head-to-head or something. But then Rybakina, I think, is on a run of 3 straight wins. And if that continues, that it's almost more important than the previous 3 matches that Sabalenka may have won. So not kryptonite. I agree. There's no kryptonite out there for her exactly. But each of those other points, where shall I begin? She's the best player in the world right now. I don't know. I saw she's not won a tournament since May. So best player in the world to not win a tournament since May. Don't know if I can quite go that far. Then there's also the WTA finals where Iga was just streets ahead of everyone else. Yeah. I mean, if she gets back to world number 1, fine. So do you know what I mean? I'm not like, I'm against you on all of these. It's just like I find that I'm not quite on board with all of the points.
Absolutely. And
go on.
I have counterpoints, but Jethro, I want to hear your thoughts first because I've been talking way too much.
Sorry, Jethro. Yeah.
No. I was gonna say that. Iga is 6-3 in the head-to-head with Sabalenka. But okay. I do agree with an extent with her because I think as much as titles matter, like the eye test is still a massive thing. Like, say after this first 2 rounds of Australian Open, you include the last 3 months. Like you could have argued Sinner is the most informed ATP player right now because Djokovic was horrible against Popyrin, pretty average against Prismic, and Sinner just blasted his way through his opponents, beat Djokovic at the Davis Cup, beat him in the round robin at the ATP finals. Obviously, Djokovic won the final that mattered, but like in terms of who looks like they were playing the best tennis in the world, Sinner, up until probably the last couple of rounds. Now Djokovic has raised his level. And I think the same with Sabalenka. I think she's just looks like the best player in the world, even though she hasn't had a title since May. And I think, like there isn't really a game plan against her when she's playing her best tennis. So that's kind of why I agree with her, to be honest.
One thing with Sabalenka's draw is at the beginning, it looked like maybe, along with Coco, perhaps the easier one amongst the top 4 players. Whereas actually the problem is for her is that from yesterday onwards, actually, the players that could get there have got there. Okay, maybe Anisimova we may have been a bit surprised about, but then there was Andreeva or Krejcikova in the next round. So now, funnily enough, Sabalenka's run actually does start to look tricky because all of the sort of big players or players in form are there. So obviously Coco in the semis. I'm not quite sure who her quarterfinal opponent potentially would be.
Okay, it's Krejcikova, is that right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Krejcikova's the quarterfinal. Okay, so Anisimova, Krejcikova, Coco, and then whoever in the final. That's a really good, really tough run suddenly.
Yeah.
But the final point, Owen, I think in your sort of your thing was about the semi-final problem. The reason I'm not fully on board with that is I know the Mukova loss last year was quite tough, quite bad, double breakup, blah blah blah. I just think that if it was like Pegula-esque or Rublev-esque with their quarterfinal problem, and there's lots of caveats to that, as Damien was highlighting earlier on today, and and a good tweet with Rublev, like if you keep running into Djokovic, Nadal, or whatever, it's tough, and Medvedev on a hard court. But with Sabalenka, she's won a Grand Slam and she's won a semi-final, or she's won 2 semi-finals. So, sometimes maybe she just came up against Iga in New York. She was a breakup there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really good match, by the way. I just think if she's losing semi-finals to not great players, or she's unbelievable across the rest of the tour, and then suddenly at a Grand Slam she's not turning up. But as we see, I think it's 5 Grand Slams in a row now in semi-finals, and may well be 6 very soon.
And
I'm not quite on board with it.
And that's totally fair, and I do hear that. But yeah, like that was the point I wanted to make is I totally get if people say, Iga just lost for the first time since September, and Sabalenka hasn't won a title since May. I think that's totally fair. But like you just said, John, you can't take Sabalenka out early in a major anymore. She's she's going deep every single time, and I do think some of these losses late in majors, it is one thing to get outplayed, but I think in a lot of them, she's way up. Like that U.S. Open final with Gauff, she's up a set, and I don't know about you guys, but when I watched that, by the end, I didn't really think, oh wow, Coco, totally outplayed her. I sort of thought Coco hung around, and then she broke Sabalenka's brain by defending so well. I think if Sabalenka stays the course, she arguably should have won that match. She was up a set and a break on Jabeur in the Wimbledon semis. She was up on Mukova. And so I feel like these are matches that she can be winning. I don't really view it as when the opposition gets tough, she starts losing. But I see the other side of it as well. And I think if she keeps losing in those, you really can't call her the best player in the world if she's not winning majors.
It's probably about 7 semi-finals that she's been to. Again, I'm probably close to this, but I haven't got it exactly right. And she's won 2. Yeah. By the way, Jethro, do you want to respond, by the way, to something that Owen just said regarding Sabalenka and anxiety, perhaps?
No, I kind of agree. I mean, I will say I did tweet the other night that Iga Swiatek is the best player in the world, so I don't want to contradict myself. I more kind of want to say I see the argument for both of them. I think those two in their own right are kind of ahead of the pack. I don't really know what happened to Iga this tournament because she looks so good coming in. But yeah, something was off. The knee possibly, but I was really surprised she lost to Noskova. Me too, yeah. Collins I would have understood because Collins was playing outstanding tennis, and I didn't actually watch the Noskova match. I was sleeping, but as much as I do think Noskova is a great prospect, that was a big shock. And Iga's draw after Noskova was still not nice. She had Svitolina to come, maybe Azarenka or Ostapenko. Rebecca was taken out for her, but then a final against Sabalenka maybe. So, yeah, that was the match at least I was expecting her to lose, apart from Kenin.
Absolutely. I saw her run, at various points in the last week or so, or 10 days since the draw was made. And as soon as the draw was made, it's like, oh, this is tough. And even though Rebecca went out, I was just like, she's going out at some point. I just don't know where. But she won't go out to Noskova. And there you go, tennis. There's a good question from Ghosty, and I think we can address it very, very soon. But before we do, there's also this in my mind, Owen, to sort of put a wrap on Sabalenka, that now she's been there and done it and worn the T-shirt. I do think that does still help her in tough moments. And I asked her about this in Madrid, and I'm going to play the video right now.
Please do.
There was some Australian Open final vibes for me today, and I was looking at a couple of comparisons. Australia was 2 hours 28 minutes. Today was 2:26. I'm sure you weren't aware of that, but I tell you, 4 championship points. Does that sound familiar? And were you thinking of it during that last game?
Actually, yes, I was thinking when I was down with the break in the last game. I was thinking, okay, I did it at the Australia Open, so probably I'll be able to get this win this time again, and it's actually helped me to stay focused and to have this belief in myself. And yeah, definitely this match reminds a lot of Australia Open match.
And you can imagine that, right? I'd be thinking the same. Most humans would be, when you've got that experience to fall on, because that final game against Rebecca a year ago, if she doesn't win that, Owen, then I'm on board. I'm on the train. I'm going choo-choo all the way to Sabalenka has some issues. But whatever happens in the rest of their career, she's obviously got over that hump.
Yeah,
I've heard Djokovic Djokovic has certainly spoken about it, and other players, that once you've been there, that you like Djokovic kind of was saying it in that interview recently, where he said, I get nervous, I get anxious, I get tight, but then I'm like, this is okay, this is going to pass. I've been here before, and that sort of rings true for me with Sabalenka to some extent.
I'm halfway with you, and I totally get it. Like, I when she won that Australian Open, I totally expected, like, okay, all the demons are going to be gone now. She's fixed it. She's done it. It's not going to be an issue anymore. And then the next major, Mukova played very well to take that match back. But I think the feeling at the time was like, oh my God, Sabalenka, like, you let that go. And so honestly, and I'm not the first one to come up with this take, but I think my angle is, like, she hasn't fixed the issues. She's just so damn good that sometimes they don't matter. She double faulted on her first 2 championship points. Is that right? In the Australian Open? Maybe it was just
at least one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she was not, the nerves were still there. She just won anyway. And so I think they're going to be a constant presence in her career. It's just that she's so good that sometimes she'll win regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Jethro?
Yeah, no, I do agree. I mean, if you look at her slam record last season, after she won the Australian Open, obviously collapsed completely against Mukova, collapsed against Jabeur in the Wimbledon semi-final. She was a break-up in that as well, and would have absolutely routine Von Drusifer in the final if she'd got through that match, and then collapsed against Coco Gauff in the US Open final. So yeah, the demons probably are still there. But I think it will, like, she was playing, the kind of next best players in, Jabeur, Mukova, Gauff. So she was still playing really high quality opponents, but she wasn't playing anyone on her or Iga's level. So I still think it will take a very good player like Gauff or someone else to take her out, even if she does get nervous.
She's going super deep. I mean, I said that she has not won a tournament since May, and maybe one tournament in the last 12 months. Like, so since the Australian Open to now, I think it's just Madrid, but I could be wrong on that. I know she won Adelaide immediately prior to the Australian Open a year ago, and then obviously won the Aussie Open. So, and of course she took the world #1 spot, albeit that was in the wake of making the final in New York. But, Indian Wells final as well, and all of it. Collapse, yeah, maybe the Mukova one, yeah. I think the other ones, setting a break, yeah, it's a mini collapse.
Play.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world, wherever you're tuning in from. Here in Germany, it's 5:15. Let me know in the live chat where you are tuning in from, and also let me know what you thought of today's women's semi. Women's semi? By the way, you should count how long it is before I make a mistake. So far, I think I got to 20 seconds before I made my first mistake, but I'm sure it won't be the last. So yeah, here in Germany, it's just gone 5:15. Let me know where you are tuning in from. And like I said, let me know what you thought of today's women's final. Also, give me some thoughts on the men's final, which will obviously be taking place tomorrow, as it is here at the moment in Germany. We'll be doing a little bit of a preview on that as well, but the most part, we'll be talking about the women's final. Let me know your thoughts on that. Hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new. And we now have the option of joining the channel as a member. You can click join on the link below and you will get a few little perks, bonuses, and benefits, such as the opportunity to use emojis in the live chat, but also potentially exclusive footage for your members only. Anyway, women's final. Wow, wow, wow. It lived up to the hype and the expectations. Sometimes these events don't, but this one undoubtedly did. Won in 3 sets by Aryna Sabalenka. She wins her first Grand Slam title. I've got little goose pimples as I say it because she's been knocking at the door for a few years now, winning Masters 1000s, getting to Grand Slam semifinals such as Wimbledon, such as the US Open in the past, but not being able to go over that line, so to speak, twice at the US Open, I believe. But finally, she did so today. But boy, was she made to work for it by Aryna Rabakina. And boy, did on occasions she make things a little bit difficult for herself in that final game. Regarding the final as a whole, and then I'll go through it bit by bit, for me, it's the best final on the women's side we've had for a couple of years, at least since the French Open of 2021, in my opinion, the final between Pavlyuchenkova and Krejcikova. And arguably, in terms of quality, we'd probably even have to go back to maybe even the US Open final of 2020, perhaps between Osaka and Azarenka, but definitely it beats hands down any final that we had last year. We only had one 3-set final last year, and that was at Wimbledon, and I think it was a good final and probably the best final of last year, but this one was the tops, the absolute tops. It had quality. It had twists and turns and drama, and it had also the story of one of the two players never having won a Grand Slam before, and you never know whether the opportunity is going to arise again. You just don't know. And I do think, had she not won it, especially trying to serve for it, this could have become a thing. Now she's got one, by the way. Now she's got a slam title, Aryna Sabalenka. To be honest with you, the sky's the limit. She could go on and win 2, 3, 4, or 5. And I think now it could be just one of those situations of breaking through the barrier. I remember, and I'm going off at a tangent here, I remember Michael Schumacher knocking at the door for Ferrari year after year after year. And it was so tantalizingly close. And so many times, there'd be mistakes from Michael. There would be mistakes from the team. There'd be incidents going on. And it just wasn't happening for one reason or another. Once they went through the barrier, oh boy, it became 5 years, 6 years of domination. I'm not predicting the same for Aryna Sabalenka, but I do think now she's got through it, she may well go on to win many more. Had she not won one, I think she could well have finished on 0 had she not won today. For example, I can see some comments in the live chat. Brian, great to see you on board. I will address these at the end. So I'll just put this little thing up there for you anyway. But I will address some of these points alone. By the way, James, nice to see you as well. Hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. And feel free, by the way, to send in a super chat to help support the channel. Listen, let's get some tweets up on the screen for you to give you a little bit of a flavor as to some of the things that went down today. I love this response here from Aryna. She sent the first tweet she sent in about 2 or 3 weeks. And by the way, she's on an unbeaten streak now of, I believe, 11 matches, having won 4 in Adelaide and now 7 in Australia. 7 at Melbourne, both being in Australia. I do know my geography. So she had so many congratulatory tweets from Coco Gauff, from Pam Shriver, I know. We've got one here from Rod Laver as well. Bianca Andreescu here saying, well deserved. And now, by the way, I guess no sugar helped. So I guess that she was probably on a little bit of a diet during the tournament to cut out sugar. And boy, did she reap the rewards today. And we can see it here. And she says, by the way, now I'm going to make up for it. So I said that obviously she had plenty of people congratulating her, such as Rod Laver, Pam Shriver. By the way, her coach in tears. How emotional was that? Because as this tweet here from Gaspar says, there was a moment, this is quoting Sabalenka, there was a moment last year when he said, her coach, I think I'm done. I can't give you anything else. And Sabalenka told her coach, no, it's not you. We just have to work through these tough moments and we'll come back stronger. And of course, what she's referring to, what they're both referring to, is a year ago, the yips. We saw it on the double faults. Double fault after double fault after double fault, easily reaching double figures for most of her matches. And that was happening in Australia. Adelaide was horrible. Australian Open, Melbourne wasn't much better. But boy, oh boy, has she come back. I remember after her match with Pliskova at the US Open, there'd been a lot of progress since the Australian Open, getting as far as the semifinals in New York, for example. And after her quarterfinal win over Pliskova, she did say, I've been with a biomechanics coach. We've changed a few things. Mentally, she felt much better. And since that US Open run, I would even say the turning point for Sabalenka was during that tournament when she was facing match points, a double breakdown as well to Kai Kanepi. She won that match incredibly, including a net cord. She gets to the semi-final. She puts in a really good tournament, in my opinion. Doesn't quite work for her there. She has a great WTA finals in Fort Worth, beating Iga Swiatek on the way to getting the final. She continued that form into the new year. Why I predicted her to win this tournament. I did have 1 or 2 last-minute doubts this morning, though, as she was going into that final. And I thought maybe Rybakina's nerve will hold. And after Rybakina won the first set, I started to doubt even more, but boy, did she come back and prove both herself and many of the other doubters wrong. Congratulations here from Billie Jean King as well. There's a nice image of Billie there in between the 2 finalists and their trophies. Okay, let's talk about the match. So, first game, by the way, the first game of the match. What Aryna Sabalenka serving, double fault, ace, backhand winner. That was the first 3 points. And I think I wrote in the live chat on the channel, so on brand, because those are the 3 things. And by the way, it kind of continued today. She double faulted 5 times in that first set, probably because she was taking a risk on the second serve rather than because of any anxiety. But still, as her fans must have been having kittens, and I'm sure that continued throughout the match. But she was taking a risk on the second serve, and I think she ultimately paid, the positive reward for that. She reaped the positive reward for that. But what a backhand day it was for Aryna Sabalenka and winners in general. 51 winners from her racket today. Unbelievable. And for that reason alone, she deserves the title. By the way, I watched Gil Gross earlier on today. He said it's the game, by the way, where... Okay, I'll get to Gil Gross's comment in a second because that's about the third set. First set, Rybakina strikes first with a break. Sabalenka breaks back. Rybakina breaks again, takes the first set. Rybakina looking solid. Maybe a little bit of shakiness from Sabalenka. And you're starting to think maybe today is not going to be Aryna's day. But Aryna fought back. This is a different Sabalenka to the one from 12 months ago. She fights back. She wins the second set. And then in the third set, at 3 games all. And she was knocking on the door. It was Sabalenka who was knocking at the door in that third set, by the way. So fully deserved. And the return game at 3-all, Gil Gross said today, it's one of the greatest return games he has ever seen. Hats off. I mean, there wasn't much Rybakina could do. Then, the final game. That final game, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, oh boy. So, what do I mean? 4 championship points. Ghosty there. Sorry, just seeing your comment. Yeah, everyone, by the way, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I will be addressing all of the comments I can see in the live chat very shortly. So keep pumping them in, asking questions. Give me your thoughts on today's women's final, but also tomorrow's men's singles final as well. I will be addressing that shortly. So the final game for the match. Sabalenka, she's serving for it at 5-3, I think it was. 5-4. She's serving for it. And of course, on her first championship point, you know what's going to happen. I don't even need to tell you. Even if you didn't watch the match, you know she double faults. And it's back to deuce. So I think it was 40-30, and she double faults at that point. Double fault. She then ekes out 2 more championship points. Doesn't take advantage. And by the way, this is the 4th time that these 2 players have met, and each match has gone to 3 sets. Each match was tight in the 3rd set. This time, however, and the 4th time of asking, including a break point for Rybakina, Sabalenka held her nerve, winning the final set 6-4. Ironically, that is the scoreline that she lost each and every one of her 3rd sets in the Grand Slam semifinals I touched on before. She'd lost 3 out of 3 coming into this tournament. 4th time of asking, she's into the final. 4th match between these 2. And 4th time of asking on championship point, Aryna Sabalenka does it. Over the line. Now she can go on and perhaps have a marvelous year. As I say, she's 11 unbeaten. I wouldn't be surprised if she goes into her next tournament feeling amazing. Because there's 2 things that can happen, by the way, to Aryna Sabalenka. 1, she relaxes, she gets complacent, the success is enough for her. But I don't think that's her character, which is why I see her going on to having a marvelous, marvelous 2023 and probably a marvelous career. And I think she will become a multiple slam winner. Also, across all surfaces, she's capable on grass and on clay, which adds to the suggestion that she is going to have a stellar, stellar, stellar career. And I don't mean stellar in terms of the beer, nor McCartney, the designer. I mean Stella with an A-R. By the way, she enjoyed a glass of wine in the press conference. She was giggling and she said she'd like to drink more. And I think she suggested that the journalists were enjoying it. But listen, it's time for her to enjoy and savor the moment. Like I said, I will come to your comments in the live chat at the end. So just some of the stats from today, 17 aces. But look, the main one was 51 winners here. And Rybakina, 31, by the way, but 51 winners. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. And by the way, Rybakina, solid. Again, I say again, I think in the semifinals, she had just 2 double faults and today just 1. And yet she's an excellent, excellent spot server with plenty of pace as well. So hats off to her. Great performance. I'm sure we'll be seeing her in a Grand Slam final again soon. But today was the day for Aryna Sabalenka. Okay, let's come to the live chat now, actually, because I want to talk about the women's. I want to come to the sort of conclusion of the women's section, and then I'll go on to the men's. So probably it's a good idea to have a look at some of your points here. Brian there saying Sabadabadoo, pretty much. Oh, I'm interpreting it, if you like. I completely agree on the quality, James says. Beats the Wimbledon's final of hands down. Exactly. For me, it's the best Grand Slam final for at least 2 years, arguably longer. I think that Krejcikova-Pavlyuchenkova was extremely exciting, but I think the quality today was even higher than that French Open. So I'd say probably 3 years, maybe more. Maybe going back to maybe even the US Open of 2019, 2020, one of those 2 US Open finals perhaps. Okay. What else here from Brian? If Saba's serve is a non-issue, then she'll take over and may well become number 1. I completely agree. Ghosty, nice to have you on board, by the way, once again. It's weird to have a slam champ who just accepts a certain number of double faults. Maybe, but that's just how it is with her. With her today, taking a risk on the second serve. It's just one of those prices that she's happy to pay, if you like. I don't think the double fault thing will completely go for her, but also I see other people. Take Zverev, for example, on the men's side. Sometimes he's not double faulting, but that second serve is so tame that the returners such as Djokovic and Nadal are eating it up for breakfast. I remember Taylor Fritz as well at Wimbledon last year against Rafa. Second serve, nerves. So instead of doing a double fault or taking a risk, it was just going in lamely. Rafa eating up for breakfast. Boom. Okay. I was taught it should be 0. Well, like I say, I think Elena's proven that. Aryna, sorry, has proven that wrong today. Okay, knock, Saba at the door. This is the second final for Rebecca, and is this an indicator that she too is on the frontal edge of a bunch of wins like Sabalenka? I think for her, for Aryna, the only thing I would say with her is I don't think she moves quite as well as Aryna, but on top of that, I also think grass is probably where we might see Rebecca perform her best and have her best results in her career. I think her game probably does suit the grass, and we saw how much better she was than most opponents last year on the grass. I don't think she has that same margin, and I would suggest on the clay, but even on a hard court, there were too many competitors, I think, that may...
Ready? Play.
Oh, Owen, this is a bit random because I'm sure you've been talking about different things in the last 5 minutes while I was gone. But there was a tweet from you that I wanted to speak to you about. I think I tried to respond to it, but I don't know if I don't think I ever clicked send. And it was basically on Sabalenka. Did you say something in the last 24 hours about, it's hers to lose, or she should win the tournament, or she's the favorite to get to the something about Sabalenka, and it was positive, but then you caveated it with a unless she runs into these semi-final or final issues, right?
Yeah, so I think the tweet was Sabalenka in tennis terms is the best player in the world, because what holds her back is she chokes a lot in semifinals
Right.
and finals. Like when she's on, she's just unstoppable. And funnily enough, I actually have Coco winning this tournament. I don't think Sabalenka is the favorite, but yeah, I mean, Sabalenka's avoided any trouble in the early rounds whatsoever. Anisimova used to give her issues, beat her really comfortably. I don't think they're really like if someone were to say like who is Sabalenka kryptonite, I don't really think there's an answer to that besides like her own mind and sometimes her serve. And I think all the other top players kind of have issues that she does not have. So from that standpoint, like I do think her game is the best in the world right now.
I'm okay with you on all of that, but each single point that you made there, I'm a little bit like, is there a kryptonite for her? I mean, Iga has to be the one on an average day who's the one. I know, what's their head-to-head? I don't know. I'm going to guess like 5-2, something like that. 5-3 maybe. So it's close. It's not Ostapenko, Iga-esque, if you like. I get that. Maybe Rebecca is on a bit of a run. Again, you look at the big picture and it's like, I don't know, 4-all their head-to-head or something. But then Rebecca, I think, is on a run of 3 straight wins. And if that continues, that it's almost more important than the previous 3 matches that Sabalenka may have won. So not kryptonite. I agree. There's no kryptonite out there for her exactly. But each of those other points, where shall I begin? She's the best player in the world right now. I don't know. I saw she's not won a tournament since May. So best player in the world to not win a tournament since May. Don't know if I can quite go that far. Then there's also the WTA finals where Iga was just streets ahead of everyone else. Yeah. I mean, if she gets back to world
Yeah.
number one, fine. So do you know what I mean? I'm not like Owen. I'm not against you on all of these. It's just like I find that I'm not quite on board with all of the points.
Absolutely, and
Go on.
I have counterpoints, but Jethro, I want to hear your thoughts first because I've been talking way too much.
Sorry, Jethro. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say that Iga is 6-3 in the head-to-head with Sabalenka. But
Okay.
I do agree with an extent with her because I think as much as titles matter, like the eye test is still a massive thing. Like, say after this first 2 rounds of Australian Open, you include the last 3 months. Like you could have argued Sinner is the most informed ATP player right now because Djokovic was horrible against Popyrin, pretty average against Prismic, and Sinner just blasted his way through his opponents, beat Djokovic at the Davis Cup, beat him in the round robin at the ATP finals. Obviously, Djokovic won the final that mattered, but like in terms of who looked like they were playing the best tennis in the world, Sinner, up until probably the last couple of rounds, now Djokovic has raised his level. And I think the same with Sabalenka. I think she's just looks like the best player in the world, even though she hasn't had a title since May. And I think, like there isn't really a game plan against her when she's playing her best tennis. So that's kind of why I agree with her, to be honest.
One thing with Sabalenka's draw is at the beginning, it looked like maybe, along with Coco, perhaps the easier one amongst the top 4 players. Whereas actually the problem is for her is that from yesterday onwards, actually, the players that could get there have got there. Okay, maybe Anisimova we may have been a bit surprised about, but then there was Andreeva or Krejcikova in the next round. So now, funnily enough, Sabalenka's run actually does start to look tricky because all of the sort of big players or players in form are there. So obviously Coco in the semis. I'm not quite sure who her quarterfinal opponent potentially would be.
It's Krejcikova, is that right?
Oh, yeah. Krejcikova's the quarterfinal. Okay, so Anisimova, Krejcikova, Coco, and then whoever in the final. That's a really good, really tough run suddenly.
Yeah.
But the final point, Owen, I think in your sort of your thing was about the semi-final problem. The reason I'm not fully on board with that is I know the Mukova loss last year was quite tough, quite bad, double breakup, blah, blah, blah. I just think that if it was like Pegula-esque or Rublev-esque with their quarterfinal problem, and there's lots of caveats to that, as Damien was highlighting earlier on today, and and a good tweet with Rublev, like if you keep running into, Djokovic, Nadal, or whatever, it's tough, and Medvedev on a hard court. But with Sabalenka, she's won a Grand Slam, and she's won a semi-final, or she's won 2 semi-finals. So, sometimes maybe she just came up against Iga in New York. She was a breakup there, I guess. Mm-hmm. That was a really good match, by the way. I just think if she's losing semi-finals to not great players, or she's unbelievable across the rest of the tour, and then suddenly at a Grand Slam she's not turning up. But as we see, I think it's 5 Grand Slams in a row now in semi-finals, and may well be 6 very soon.
And
I'm not quite on board with it.
And that's totally fair, and I do hear that. But yeah, like that was the point I wanted to make is I totally get if people say, Iga just lost for the first time since September, and Sabalenka hasn't won a title since May. I think that's totally fair. But like you just said, John, you can't take Sabalenka out early in a major anymore. She's she's going deep every single time, and I do think some of these losses late in majors, it is one thing to get outplayed, but I think in a lot of them, she's way up. Like that U.S. Open final with Gauff, she's up a set, and I don't know about you guys, but when I watched that, by the end, I didn't really think, oh wow, Coco, totally outplayed her. I sort of thought Coco hung around, and then she broke Sabalenka's brain by defending so well. I think if Sabalenka stays the course, she arguably should have won that match. She was up a set and a break on Jabeur in the Wimbledon semis. She was up on Mukova. And so I feel like these are matches that she can be winning. I don't really view it as when the opposition gets tough, she starts losing. But I see the other side of it as well. And I think if she keeps losing in those, yeah, you really can't call her the best player in the world if she's not winning majors.
It's probably about 7 semi-finals that she's been to. Again, I'm probably close to this, but I haven't got it exactly right. And she's won 2. Yeah. By the way, Jethro, do you want to respond, by the way, to something that Owen just said regarding Sabalenka and anxiety, perhaps?
No, I kind of agree. I mean, I will say I did tweet the other night that Iga Swiatek is the best player in the world, so I don't want to contradict myself. I more kind of want to say I see the argument for both of them. I think those two in their own right are kind of ahead of the pack. I don't really know what happened to Iga this tournament because she looked so good coming in. But yeah, something was off. The knee possibly, but
yeah.
I was really surprised she lost to Noskova.
Me too, yeah.
Collins, I would have understood because Collins was playing outstanding tennis, and I didn't actually watch the Noskova match. I was sleeping, but you know, as much as I do think Noskova is a great prospect, that was a big shock. And Iga's draw after Noskova was still not nice. You know, she had Svitolina to come, maybe Azarenka or Ostapenko. Rebecca was taken out for her, but then a final against Sabalenka maybe. So yeah, that was the match at least I was expecting her to lose, apart from Kenin.
Absolutely. I saw her run, you know, at various points in the last week or so, or 10 days since the draw was made. And as soon as the draw was made, it's like, oh, this is tough. And even though Rebecca went out, I was just like, she's going out at some point. I just don't know where. But she won't go out to Noskova. And there you go, tennis. There's a good question from Ghosty, and I think we can address it very, very soon. But before we do, there's also this in my mind, Owen, to sort of put a wrap on Sabalenka, that now she's been there and done it and worn the T-shirt. I do think that does still help her in tough moments. And I asked her about this in Madrid, and I'm going to play the video right now.
Please do.
There were some Australian Open final vibes for me today, and I was looking at a couple of comparisons. Australia was 2 hours, 28 minutes. Today was 2:26. I'm sure you weren't aware of that. But I tell you, 4 championship points. Does that sound familiar? And were you thinking of it during that last game?
Actually, yes, I was thinking when I was down with the break in the last game, I was thinking, okay, I did it at the Australia Open, so probably I'll be able to get this win this time again, and it's actually helped me to stay focused and to have this belief in myself. And yeah, definitely this match reminds a lot of Australia Open match.
And you can imagine that, right? I'd be thinking the same. Most humans would be, you know, when you've got that experience to fall on, because that final game against Rybakina a year ago, you know, if she doesn't win that, Owen, then I'm on board. I'm on the train. I'm going choo-choo all the way to Sabalenka has some issues. But whatever happens in the rest of their career, she's obviously got over that hump.
Yeah,
I've heard Djokovic Djokovic has certainly spoken about it, and other players, that once you've been there, that you like Djokovic kind of was saying it in that interview recently, where he said, you know, I get nervous, I get anxious, I get tight, but then I'm like, you know, this is okay, this is going to pass. I've been here before, and that sort of rings true for me with Sabalenka to some extent.
I'm halfway with you, and I totally get it. Like, I when she won that Australian Open, I totally expected, like, okay, all the demons are going to be gone now. She's fixed it. She's done it. It's not going to be an issue anymore. And then the next major, you know, Mukova played very well to take that match back. But I think the feeling at the time was like, oh my God, Sabalenka, like, you let that go. And so honestly, and I'm not the first one to come up with this take, but I think my angle is, like, she hasn't fixed the issues. She's just so damn good that sometimes they don't matter. She double faulted on her first 2 championship points. Is that right? In the Australian Open? Maybe it was just
at least one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she was not, the nerves were still there. She just won anyway. And so I think I think they're going to be a constant presence in her career. It's just that she's so good that sometimes she'll win regardless.
Mm-hmm. Jethro?
Yeah, no, I do agree. I mean, if you look at her slam record last season after she won the Australian Open, obviously collapsed completely against Mukova, collapsed against Jabeur in the Wimbledon semi-final. She was a break-up in that as well, and would have absolutely routine Von Drusefer in the final if she'd got through that match, and then collapsed against Coco Gauff in the US Open final. So yeah, the demons probably are still there, but I think it will depend. Like, she was playing, you know, the kind of.
Played immediately prior to the Australian Open a year ago.
Ready. Play.
As well, and all this. Collapse, yeah, maybe the Mukova one, yeah. I think the other ones setting a break, yeah, it's a mini collapse.
Yeah, sorry to cut Jeffro blast from the past mid-sentence, but we basically have to talk about the actual match right now. Aryna Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, the first semi-final, the one that everyone is waiting for. Sabalenka starts off with an ace, also a big forehand winner, and now she just leads for the love. They are playing under a closed roof. They are playing indoors, which is only sort of strengthening the Sabalenka edge, let's be honest, which was pretty big in the first place. Like, it's pretty wild that she's so much higher in terms of, like, you know, the market, the odds compared to the US Open. I wasn't expecting that. However, I agree with it. As I've said many times this week, tennis-wise, I just don't think there are any arguments for Gauff, really. And it's not because of how she played against Kostyuk. That's not really an issue to me. I do think that she's going to be better here because the dynamics of the matchup are very different as well. The match against Kostyuk, it was just sort of maybe not as constant in terms of the heavy weight of shot coming at her, which actually for Gauff can be an issue. Like, it can actually be a problem that she's not all the time, you know, scrambling around, and I think she's gonna find herself a little more comfortable with the matchup. It's just that whether she's gonna be able to handle the space, and I don't really see how she does it, but we'll see. Of course, at the US Open, she beat her in the final in 3 sets. Sabalenka, like, in total control after the opener. However, she makes a few errors. Gauff starts running down some incredible shots. I mean, probably basically speed that we haven't really seen on the tour ever, probably in the women's game, because you very legitimately could argue that the two best athletes in the history of women's tennis are Świątek and Gauff, just because the sport has evolved and the technology and the the game has evolved in a way where previously that sort of athleticism was not needed. Terry said even during the warm-up that Coco looks nervous, and in fact she starts the match with 2 double faults. I think it very likely as well could be a pretty similar match to New York. You know, Sabalenka gets an early lead, and then we'll see how much pressure Gauff is actually able to extract on her. Like, whether she's able to weather the storm in any way and make these issues that Sabalenka has been having in major semis, finals come up at all. I don't consider that Australian Open final an issue at all from last year, sort of referring to what the guys were just retroactively talking about. But it's absolutely a fair point that the last 3 slams, Sabalenka has blown leads to some extent. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Obviously, the more would be Muchova, the more would be Gauff. The less probably would be Jabeur at Wimbledon, which was fine. and also the semifinal against Keys, which she eventually wins, but she loses the first set in a bagel, and it's like so off as well, which I do think is more or less from nerves. But she's starting well here, it seems. Plays a pretty ridiculous point to go 4D love up. Now a bit of hesitation, maybe whether to come in after this forehand. If she was on top of the net earlier, she probably could have made it, but it's still 2 break points. But the love 30 points certainly was quite stunning. The way she takes this forehand so early and lands it on the line. Deep return on the next one as well, and Gauff is not landing that forehand. Yes, she's going to net it, so it's a break for Sabalenka already. She apparently wins 94% of sets after getting an early break, which is super high. I think even on the men's side, we are seeing lower numbers. That's somewhat surprising, of course, despite her being one of the best servers in the game, that it's that high. But maybe it could tell you something about, her being just a real confidence player, and how when she starts rolling, she kind of never stops unless she suddenly has some issues or goes down in the score. Thank you, Jake. That's a wonderful compliment. I mean, I don't know of any other Polish tennis journalist that has named Damien, so I'm really glad to have this special place in your heart. I wonder if I can tell you, if I can call you my favorite Jake, who's also a subscriber to Talking Tennis, and I would assume so because I don't really know of any other Jake. That's better though. Gauff gets this backhand winner down the line here. Sort of wake herself up, get herself going in the match after the 2 double faults in the previous game. Big serve from Sabalenka, and she rushes Gauff, goes to the net and messes it up pretty horribly, actually. This time that wasn't a problem of timing. Like on the previous shot, it was clear that she just decided to follow the shot up to the net a little late, which was also understandable. She just wasn't expecting it to do that much damage. But here she actually starts running somewhat instantly. Just that backhand volley never really looked like she was too comfortable with it, though. Playing it off the service line as well, not closer. And can Gauff break back straight away? She has 3 break points to do it. We'll have to do it on the second or third, though. Sabalenka going with big flat pace of the backhand to her forehand, and Gauff can't quite absorb it. 2 more break points. Big serve again, and she's going to have to play a point in the forecourt. And yeah, I mean, it's just been a big mess whenever she's there. Gauff manages to track it down as well. It was pretty tough to stop before the net, and it was pretty tough to stop yourself from hitting it when getting to that half volley from Sabalenka, but she does get there, so it's a break right back, and we are again on serve. Yeah, definitely we're seeing some forecourt and net approach issues from Sabalenka already. She's, needless to say, not that comfortable there. We've seen players even luring her forward. Maybe Gauff will be doing that too, but for now, of course, this is seemingly her main idea as to how to hit through the speed and athleticism of Gauff. And so far, she isn't really managing to pull it off. This reminds me of the men's doubles earlier today when actually Rohan Bopana played a similar shot. Then he didn't manage to hold himself off from hitting the net with the racket. However, no one spotted it, but Bopana stopped the point anyway and just conceded it, which was, of course, very good sportsmanship. And he's been doing this time and time again over the years. So some famous people on the screen. I would I think that might be Jennifer Jason Lee, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I do think it could be her. I didn't know she was a tennis fan. Now let's see if Coco can get her first hold of the match. Definitely, eased her way into the match a bit with that previous break, and sort of again showed that the pressure that she can get to Sabalenka with just getting her shots back more or less. It is something, it is something to consider, as Aryna was messing up quite a lot there, trying to finish off the points. There's more double faults coming though. Some early nerves that she will have to iron out over the course of the match. It's a big day for everyone. It's a big day for every women's tennis fan. It's a big day for Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka as well. And I think Sabalenka probably kind of desperate to return the favor for that US Open loss. We know her. She'll be feeling like she had control over that match and just let it go. So she will be definitely quite happy to avenge that defeat. Whereas Gauff, it's a big opportunity for her as well. I don't think either is thinking about it at the moment, but also whoever wins this match will be the world number 2 after the Australian Open. Sabalenka, of course, that would only mean that she's defending her 2,000 points, but it's not like they will suddenly disappear off her ranking midway through the season. They will remain there until next year's Australian Open. Whereas Gauff, it would actually mean that she has a serious chance of getting to number 1 if she wins this title. So it is important, but I don't think either is really thinking about it at the moment. The most important thing is probably getting that Australian Open title. That's a net court from Gauff. Sabalenka tracks it down, but she will not be able to do anything about that lob. That's mostly a net court thing, though. And another big serve from Gauff. She's sort of in the Qin Wen Zheng vein of first serving, right, where the pace on the first serve is insane. If she starts landing it more, it will be a massive weapon. Second serve, though, is a big step. Is a big step down. But we're going to be talking about Qin Wen Zheng sometime soon, as of course after this match, Qin Wen Zheng is playing against Diana Yastremska in the second semifinal, the one that probably less people are interested in. But well, since Yastremska and Zheng only had 1 day of rest, that had to be the scheduling for today. And let's see what's gonna happen here. 2 games all now. Sabalenka with a big backhand +1 cross court to force an error from Gauff. This should be her point as well. Yes, it is. +1 forehand. Gauff almost makes it, again using that insane speed, but she can't quite make the pass. Gauff trying to step into her second serve return. Nets the backhand, so it seems like this game will just smoothly go Sabalenka's way. She stops the streak that was building up, of course, of just 2 games, really, where Gauff was back. And now she has a chance to get that 3-2 lead that she's going after. And indeed, the +1 forehand is massive. So 3-2 Sabalenka, but it's pretty good for Gauff still to be on level in this match, given that Sabalenka started so well in the first 2 games. But Gauff manages to hold off, hold down the nerves, get herself going, and despite the 3 double faults in the first 2 service games, we are still level. Sabalenka also had a very high first serve percentage, 92% so far, 12 out of 13. Of course, we're not really expecting that to stick, but 12 out of 13 is pretty insane. So still, she lost the game with that, right? She's managing to hit 92% of her first serves so far, and she lost the service game. So, and she's also 0-4 at the net, which yeah, that's what we've been seeing so far in these 5 games. Yeah, the moment she sort of steps over that line, let's say, sort of between the middle of the service box, sort of middle between the service box and the baseline, that's the moment when she starts being a lot less comfortable and a lot more shaky when it comes to her decision making, when it comes to her technique even. So we'll see if Gauff even starts luring her there on purpose, which is definitely a viable strategy, or how this matchup will be progressing in general. All right, Gauff serving 2-3. I missed the first point actually while I was reading something, but it seems that she mishit a forehand. Yeah, on that's what I see on the replay. Sabalenka again trying to go after that second serve return, but this time it's not going to work out. She overhits it by a pretty long while. It's a pretty fun clash of styles, though, for sure. Gauff needs to be a little more aggressive on the second serve return as well, but so far she hasn't been really getting any chances to do it. But otherwise, it will just be Sabalenka trying to kill the ball while Gauff will try to make her play one more shot, and maybe also take some time away from her if possible. Sometimes force these high risk, low margin counters from Sabalenka if that becomes a thing. Obviously, serving well is also a major advantage if Gauff can pull it off. Sabalenka, we kind of know that she's going to be doing it, and probably after second serve, she's also going to hold up. But for Gauff, that getting these huge first serves in, the pace that she has on them, that will be of major help if she can do it. Now another double fault though, so 4 in the first 3 service games already. So there's definitely a bit of nerves there. Maybe also the simply knowing that she has to be pretty precise, she has to go pretty deep on them, because otherwise she will be they might be eaten up by Sabalenka. So basically you gotta go for it in a way. And it's another double fault indeed. She was going pretty deep down the middle, but was that the strategy, or is she just feeling tense? Who knows? Sabalenka slices her forehand return, interestingly. Keeps going to the Gauff forehand here, but it's not the liabilities of the Coco forehand that lose her the point here. It's pretty much that insane angle that Sabalenka found on the forehand cross. Although you could argue that the 2 balls that were given to her by the Gauff forehand were maybe a little short, maybe a little no without any pace. But still, she gets the breakpoint with a very good attacking combination after that forehand slice, the wrong footing backhand, and then the forcing shot, if you may. Now she gets her first net point as well, although she was pretty much behind the service box. So I don't know if it will count. I think it should. But she does get it with a big forehand return and then a drive volley. So she's up again, up by a break again. And this was the last couple of points was definitely a bit of a clinic of how Sabalenka wants to be playing this matchup. The block return of the first serve was pretty interesting. That's something that probably we don't see from her that often. But it did give her a lot of initiative, especially as she played it through the Gauff forehand. And here she just plays like a more usual Sabalenka one to punch on return. So 4-2 up for the defending champion. Is this a virtual final? We'll see. Hopefully the Saturday match will also be competitive between either of these two and Jastrzębska or Zheng, but we can't really exclude that possibility, I suppose. The two main favorites staying in the event, of course, are Sabalenka and Gauff. This is a bit of a Gauff masterpiece here, though, with the way that she was able to at first just absorb the pressure, then actually produce a very deep counter of the backhand on the rise. And Sabalenka standing on the baseline, she has to lift the ball a little bit. And Gauff is quick to step up. Gauff is pretty quick to punish it. I think I'm going to have to grab that pillow that blocks my screen away from the sun. Because clearly it's becoming a factor again. But yeah, of course, last time Sabalenka opened up a lead, Gauff broke back right away. She'll be trying to do it again here, but let's see if she can pull it off, as she made the backhand unforced error just a second ago. And now there's a big serve from Sabalenka that, of course, you kind of have to factor in these games that at least 1 or 2 points probably will be either won or set up by the serve. Probably likewise for Gauff as well, but of course, Coco hasn't been helping herself either with the 5 double faults and 3 service games, losing both games where she had 2 each. So, and Sabalenka is 40-15 up now, looking for that 5-2 lead, which probably won't feel like the set is over yet, but of course she will be getting pretty close and she will be just 1 game away from securing it. And that's an ace as well. So pretty much I would say 3 points this game even were set up by the Sabalenka service. The one for 40-15 I would also count it. Gets a short ball, gets a big +1 backhand in, and so far Gauff is just not able to survive given that pressure. And we'll see. I mean, the US Open finals, of course, fairly similar in the opening set. So it's absolutely not a given that this will continue. This has some US Open final vibes, says John. Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, this is a very likely scenario for this match, that Sabalenka, might win the opener. Pretty dominant, but then let's see if the pressure mounts up, if Coco does enough to mount up the pressure, which she did at the US Open. Was that also like partially because of the crowd? Maybe. It's not that obvious, but yeah. Also, the conditions here, I would say, are even better for Aryna, so she will be really desperate not to blow it. Again, she goes for the forehand block return. Sort of just gets into the rally with it. Coco plays a couple of very decent forehands here, though. Again, like sometimes when there's actual pressure on that wing, it might actually hold up better than when she has to generate it herself. But anyway, she wins the point eventually, winning that cross-court exchange after Sabalenka error. But again, we're seeing that block return of Sabalenka after the Gauff first serve. Sort of just trying to return to neutral and then maybe step in on the next shot. Not working this time. I mean, Gauff just takes the backhand winner +1 cross court so early with massive power on it. So how about now though? Oh, that was pretty interesting. I think Coco lost her balance there. Maybe I would like to see the replay on that footwork. Maybe we'll get it. There was a net court here. Sabalenka goes cross, and I mean, we didn't really see a replay of that. Yeah, I think maybe her right foot slipped. I'm not sure. We didn't get like a clear view of it on the replay. But again, anyway, it's a forehand cross-court winner for Aryna. A couple of games earlier, a net court helped Gauff. Now it definitely helped Sabalenka. She's trying to go for this inside-out forehand return. It clips the net, and then it falls like... It's actually rare to see a net court like this. Sort of changing the trajectory of the ball completely, and then also not falling like right behind the net or even close to the net, but actually pretty close to the baseline. But yeah, she gets that point. A big serve from Gauff means that she will have the 40-30 advantage though. And she's 1 point away from at least making Aryna serve it out. It's been a very fast-paced match, lots of serve +1 rallies, which given the conditions, I think makes a ton of sense. Sabalenka is returning that Gauff serve pretty okay though. Like even with Coco getting a lot of first serves in here, most of them she still had to play at least 1 or 2 shots on, which is a big boost, of course, for Aryna. But this time Gauff was like really clinical on either of them, really. So 5-3 up now, Sabalenka serving for the set. Now another net court that kind of helps Sabalenka, it seems, but Gauff will actually win the point with this volley exchange. The redrop from Gauff was pretty good, and it allowed her to actually stay on top of the point despite the net court being pretty tricky for her to handle. And eventually she wins this point when there was like a 3-4 shot volleying exchange. Sabalenka gets to this one on the stretch, but then Gauff with the backhand drive actually had to be pretty quick with her reaction as well to play it with a drive. But we all know that on the WTA players seem to love that shot. So another massive serve from Sabalenka, but it is handled well by Gauff. She is in the point. The forehand is getting pressured though, and it will not hold up this time, as her whole contact point and motion just breaks down completely here. That was a bit of improvisation, I would say, from Aryna, but she does manage to get that +1 winner of the backhand side. It was a bit uncomfortable for her down the middle. Had to move away quickly, but she manages to do it. Yeah, I think especially the indoor conditions and also in general the Melbourne courts so far, they've really been helpful to her. And it's really just a matter of whether Gauff can actually apply this much pressure with her speed again. Also, if Aryna has any more these Grand Slam woes of late, because she's been playing better. You know, she's been the dominant force so far this set. But of course, it's not done yet. It's just 30-15. And it really doesn't take much here for like Gauff to start getting back on the board, right? I mean, Sabalenka really needs to be executing her game pretty well in order to be still in control here. Like it really just takes a bit of nerves, a bit of tension, a couple of loose errors, and then suddenly it's Gauff is fully back into it. So it's not like she's against Krejcikova here, where like she could afford a few loose games, or basically in any other previous match of hers, this Australian Open, she could afford some loose games. Maybe not against Surenko when she won 6-love, 6-love. I mean, then there she didn't have any loose games against Ella Seidel. But against Fruhvirtova or Krejcikova, she definitely had a few that were a bit weaker. And here as well against Gauff, of course, that first break, that only break for Coco so far, that was a huge mess. And now it gets kind of tricky, as at 30 all, Sabalenka is gonna try to go for this huge second serve out wide. Maybe not huge, but she actually like really tries to go for the angle. And that's a double fault to give Gauff a break point. So first double fault of the match, of course, Coco has had 5, but it comes at a very crucial moment for Aryna. So and again, the first serve isn't in. It's actually the 3rd consecutive point already, despite having such a high percentage at the very beginning of the of this part of the match. Now she makes the second serve, but she just commits a pretty random error on the next shot on the +1 forehand. So Coco Gauff actually has broken and will be trying to serve to stay in the set now. After 30 minutes, we are at 4-5. And yeah, 30-15 up, Sabalenka just has a pretty random dip. And this is exactly what we sort of were saying, that just a couple minutes earlier, or like even maybe a minute earlier, I said that like she could afford it against Krejcikova. Doesn't seem like she can afford it against Gauff for now. But who knows? I mean, she's still gonna have that return game now when she can try to attack a bit freely. I don't know if she will be attacking freely, given that she basically just lost her game when serving for the set and might be still sort of remembering that, right? Azarenka's best tournament is also Australian Open. Yeah, that's true. Is it the best for Alexandra Sasnovic though, or Irina Shimanovic? Probably not. But yeah, I mean, they like similar conditions, you know. Yeah, it is indoors, yeah. Sort of maybe responding to the questions around Sabalenka's mental game. Yes, some dips will be there. It's a question of whether she will be able to overcome them, though. And I think this match is destined to be the longest of her event so far, right? Because all the previous ones, they were actually like 71 minutes tops, I think, against Krejcikova. Although, unless, you know, if she wins this game and then wins the second set pretty easily, it could still be actually finish earlier than 71 minutes. But yeah, I mean, so far we are not really certain that she's gonna take the set. We are not certain that she's gonna take the match after that dip. Definitely not. However, she finds this forehand return winner to go love 15. 15 love up, I guess, on the Gauff serve. Let's see if she wins this trade. There were a couple of backhands here with very low net clearance. Ooh, and she goes for this flat winner cross court, but she just misses it. And yeah, the tension is definitely like palpable from both, which, as you know, is definitely understandable. I mean, it's a big match for both of them. Are they already thinking about the title? Are they considering this the final? Of course, they don't want to, but at least partially, they must be aware of the opportunity ahead. The subconscious might be playing tricks with them. Or on them, rather. That's another double fault from Gauff. 6 now, I think, in her 5th service game. And that gets us back to 30 all. So now we'll either have a game point for Gauff or a set point for Sabalenka, which she actually didn't get to in the previous game, despite being 30-15 up on her own serve. She actually didn't get to a set point. Another one of these forehand returns cross from Sabalenka. And she was trying to put some pressure on the Gauff forehand, which Gauff just made it inside the baseline and found herself a great backhand down the line opportunity. Honestly, kind of unlucky to miss it. I think technically she did everything right here. And it is a set point for Sabalenka now. But yeah, I mean, this easily could have been 40-30 Gauff. She really found herself an angle there, an angle she's comfortable with, just missed it by really a very fine margin. But the first serve gives her a 3 point. Sabalenka trying to return pretty close to the baseline and can't move away in time when she gets hit with this 200 km/h serve at the body. I don't know if it was actually 200. Well, not 196. Yeah, so pretty much the same. And again, Gauff finding a lot of deep serves more or less at the body of Sabalenka, which given Aryna's return position is pretty tough for her to handle. She gets another 3 point and she might be 5 games all very soon. Gonna have to do it on the second serve though. So let's see if she gets it into play and if Sabalenka can attack it right away. Well, both things were true. She did get it into play, and Sabalenka could attack it right away. She just blasted a forehand return winner inside in. So yes, I mean, the answer to both questions is yes and yes. It reminds me of this famous police squad scene when there's a guy finds Leslie Nielsen in his office and asks him, "Who are you and how did you get in here?" And he says, "I'm a locksmith and I'm a locksmith." So sort of similarly here, almost similarly. Anyway, great point here. Sabalenka approaching the net, and again, she's just so tense whenever she has a volley, even if it's a put away like here. I don't think she was actually going to put away anyway. I think her choice of direction kind of meant that she would have to keep going with it as well. But yeah, you can just instantly see how she's so much less confident when she's in that part of the court. She approaches here and yeah, she just messes up everything so far when she's at the net. Just below the tape. Yeah, that was a pretty horrific volley. Gauff with the forehand drop shot, she just barely misses it. So again, the right play because Sabalenka was on the back foot. I don't think she was ever going to make it. But again, just a little bit of misfortune or poor execution. I mean, you take your call basically, but it's similar to that backhand down the line earlier where it was definitely the right play, but she just misses it by this much. Good serve down the tee, so one more game point for Coco. 201 km/h. Sabalenka again blocking the return, but she's spotty on that next backhand and 5 games all. Gauff returns from 2-5 down, saving what was it, 1 set point? I think it was right. Seems right. Let me check that. I guess I should, but I think it was 1 set point. Yeah, a lot of the time going at the body as Sabalenka is standing so close, but she also found a good one down the tee here. I don't know if you've actually seen her some big ones out wide, but yeah, the pace of that shot is obviously quite supreme. It's just a matter of landing it and improving the second serve that could really raise her ceiling as well. It would be a fun Gauff Zheng final because that would be like a couple of very similar first servers, I think. If the first serve is in, godlike. If the first serve is not, attackable. And then, yeah, there's definitely a bit of a similarity here between these two. But yeah, she's back from 2-5 down. Let's see if she can keep it going and threaten the Sabalenka serve as well. Last Australian Open, the semi-final between Sabalenka and Linette, actually had a pretty tough opening set as well. 7-6. It's a funny point. Sabalenka just barely getting back this first drive volley from Gauff, but Coco smashes it cross for a winner. But yeah, that first set against Linette was also pretty tough, 7-6, 6-2. But sort of all due respect to Magda Linette, I think Coco is a little better. Especially when it comes to just absorbing and redirecting that pace of Sabalenka. I think she's probably going to be able to extract a bit more pressure, and also offensively there's obviously a big gap there. Linette was probably serving some of her best. Like Linette serving at the Australian Open last year was some of the best of her career, and she was definitely, like, compared to, let's say, the version of her that we saw for the rest of the season, she was really like willing to take the shots down the line and like go for it. But it's not really close when it comes to, let's say, attacking potential between her and Gauff. Even if Coco is like primarily a defensive player, and Linette probably isn't. Yeah, lots and lots more chinks in the armor of Sabalenka now. Loses that forehand cross exchange, which obviously shouldn't really ever happen, but her motion completely breaks down here. 11 unforced errors each at the moment. 5-all, 30-all. It couldn't be any closer than this. Of course, with Gauff having a bit of nice momentum, having won the last 3 games, Sabalenka definitely getting more and more frustrated at herself. So big serve. And is she able to take anything now? Not really. Like, she is kind of lucky about it. I don't even know if the shot didn't clip. Maybe the shot even clipped the net. I would like a replay of that. But Gauff eventually just wasn't really in good position to return it. She was like a little too fast at it, which I think might suggest that maybe the net was involved, actually, changing the trajectory a little bit. But Sabalenka gets this point, but it did not look confident. It wasn't really. Yeah, I mean, any shot she hits right now, you just have zero confidence that she's gonna make it. There's a total lack of control over her game right now for Sabalenka, which is definitely coming due to these nerves that she's been experiencing. And the +1 backhand on the next shot is again just the motion's like very torn. This is a little better, but what can she do with it? At the net, especially with a smash, yes, she can put it away. And it's a big reaction, big come on from her. And any shot Sabalenka plays right now, you're sort of like, I don't know if she's gonna make it. But she manages to get this point, which is really important for her confidence. And this game would also be very important for her confidence going into the rest of the set, obviously. We are at a very crucial moment, but it feels like she needs to stop this streak from Gauff if she wants to keep going in this set. As any shot she makes right now, you're just sort of looking at it as a potential error. There's nerves, there's frustration, there's total lack of control. And now we're back to deuce. And Coco forces her to hit this forehand on the run, which she misses. This time it's not a question of nerves. I mean, it was just a very tough shot that Gauff made her play after surviving the initial pressure, and to sort of answer our questions as to whether Gauff can actually apply enough to Sabalenka, given that the conditions and like the general how their last two matches looked, at least the first set of the US Open. Yes, I mean she definitely can. I don't know if she wins the set, I don't know if she wins the match, but she definitely can apply enough pressure to make Sabalenka question her judgment, question her shots a little bit. And yeah, this is just a disaster. This is an absolute disaster. She fired this pretty cool +1 forehand. She manages to get to a point where she like has a sitter to claim the game, but then she goes for the wrong direction completely. She has the open court on the right side. Gauff is just standing there. She's not gonna track it down anyway. Sabalenka not only goes at Gauff, but she also just misses it because the margin that she was going for, the corridor that she had there, it wasn't very wide. Yeah, I mean there was just very little space for her to hit that shot. So it's actually Gauff to serve for the set now, as Sabalenka has had a complete meltdown. Yeah, John says it did clip the net. And yeah, I also think it wasn't the cleanest of smashes, but at that point it just seemed important for her to get anything in. And of course, eventually she does not win it. But yeah, let's see if Sabalenka can regain any control over her shots, because right now it's just she can't really keep 1-2 balls in play. Oh, Ghosty again with the Qinwen Zheng shade. Just shut up, you lost. Ghosty earlier was saying that Sloane Stephens was the favorite to make the top half, top half final, and how are these our Kalinskaya or Zhang gonna beat her, as Zheng doesn't have any WTA 1000 titles, any finals at slams. And also, Ghosty, you're back in the chat after Rublev and Sinner. What do I have to say to me and John about this match? All shots firing now at Ghosty, but well, you did that to yourself, bro. Although, no, actually, I wasn't gonna do it, but if you keep trying to tell us that Qinwen Zheng is overrated, I'm gonna keep going at you. Ugh, yeah, Sabalenka gets a point here. Was it confident? No. Was it comfortable? No. But the ball falls like literally on the baseline. And Gauff shanks the forehand because of it. But it's still 30-15 for the American, who of course is coming back from 2-5 here. And actually had a 30-love lead as well. Serve. Let's see if she can keep going. Sabalenka slicing the ball to her forehand, and Gauff makes a pretty horrible error herself. It's a pretty good sort of example of the Gauff forehand wobbles. This point, she gets a higher ball from Sabalenka. She just hits it, with ease. She stays in control of the point, but then she gets that slice, and yeah, Brad Gilbert, the look on his face, honestly, it was pretty brutal. Like he was just like, no, not again. And Sabalenka will have a break point here, so now she finds herself a couple of shots that she's comfortable with. Now she finds some big blasts. And yeah, I mean, honestly, just as I said that at 5-2, this set doesn't feel over. I mean, even when Gauff was 6-5 30 love here, it didn't really feel over, because it only really takes Sabalenka to put in a few balls in the court to at least have a chance of winning these points. Whereas in the previous 4 games, she wasn't really, well, these 3 games, because the 2-5 The 2-5 hold was actually really good from Coco, but then later on, she just wasn't really giving herself a chance of winning it. And Sabalenka with the big forehand return. Coco has managed to handle it though, but they're playing a rally. And again, the Gauff forehand. Yeah, 6 games all. I mean, it's both high quality and horrible at the same time. I mean, you have to appreciate some of the shots that they're hitting, but then Sabalenka will make like some stupid decisions, and the Gauff forehand, like here, I mean, she just tries to put a lot of spin on it, and you see right away when she hits it that it's not going to be inside the court, that it's just going to be overplayed. 6 games all. Aryna Sabalenka to start the tiebreak. I don't know anything anymore. I don't even know my name or which day it is. Which day it is, I haven't known for a while, basically since the Australian Open started. Let's see what Aryna Sabalenka will come up with on the second serve here. I guess even when someone will be up 6-love in this tiebreak, we won't be confident about this set being over. It's a nice forehand return from Gauff down the line, but now she is the one who at the net lets Sabalenka back into the point. And again, it's the backhand drive. I think it was the forehand drive more so that was sort of fooling Gauff with in the Kostyuk match, right? Was it the forehand drive that she kept missing? Or like, yeah, kept putting it back in play like this? Sometimes the over-reliance on drive volleys in the women's game is kind of surprising, as yeah, it's just so hard to get a clean shot out of that sort of position here. Whereas if you just, I don't know, let it bounce, or if you just play a regular volley, I feel like you have a lot more options. But anyway, she loses the point because of it, because of letting Sabalenka back in it. And that's a fantastic winner from Aryna now. Gauff just not doing too much on that backhand, and instantly it's punished. ...136 kilometers an hour on the forehand here. And that's the first mini break for Sabalenka. Coco rolls that second serve in, although for a moment it was really close. She's on the ground now, but she manages to stand up. She shows Aryna that she's fine with a thumbs up. But it's 2 mini breaks for the Belarusians, who has another good opportunity to clinch the set. I mean, of course, free love, 2 mini breaks. It's not exactly an advantage you have to convert yet, but you know, just 1 point, 1 good point on serve, and she's 4-1 up, and basically just keep winning one every change of ends, if you may, or like a change of serve, and you get there. So it is another good opportunity anyway. I think Coco has missed this backhand down across. Yeah, it's like another one of these in the last few minutes where Coco has the right idea. I mean, she has a ball that she has to go after, and she just misses it by the tiniest of margins. Again, is it unlucky? Is it poorly executed? You tell me. I mean, it's somewhere in the middle, I guess. But she needed to go for it. I mean, she had the perfect ball for herself, just misses it by really just the narrowest of margins. But that does give Sabalenka the 4th point, and I don't know, the 4-0, does it already feel like the set is over? I think at 5 it probably will. Let's see if 4 is enough. It is 4-1. That's a nice forehand return from Gauff, stepping into it. And definitely when Sabalenka has that sort of normal second serve at the Gauff forehand, that's when Coco actually enjoys hitting through it. That's not a position, that's not a contact point she struggles with. But already a couple of these are, as well in this tiebreak, including the first point, which of course she lost eventually after that drive volley that just allowed Aryna back into the point. 4-1. Some pretty vital points on the Gauff serve now coming up. This first serve felt weird, like very decelerated. Maybe she didn't hit it too clean. But yeah, Of course, Aryna will be trying to step up, and she does. Yeah, inside out forehand return winner. Massive, probably faster than the serve, I would assume. And she is 5-1 up. Are we ready to think that the set is over? I don't know anymore. It feels like Sabalenka can just lose her marbles again any minute, and just, again, stop making shots, stop keeping 2 free balls in play, which doesn't have to be enough even to win points, of course, if she makes 2 free shots, but, not making them didn't even give her a shot at winning them, so. That's a great point for Sabalenka as well. I think at 6-1, I am ready to think of the set as over, but we will see. But yeah, now she suddenly finds everything. Now she's playing this sort of tennis that if she was playing the entire set, she wins it 6-2. But of course, she didn't play it under pressure. She didn't play it when she was close earlier. Suddenly woke up at love 35-6. Coco missed a couple of shots by, just really a very narrow margin, or maybe made a few poor errors on the forehand in that game at 5-6 down, or 6-5 up from her perspective. And now it's Sabalenka with the 5 set points, as the sun is getting even more irritating for me, but I think I managed to hold it off with my pillow block. Oh, yeah. Gauff is going to claim the first one. Good serve, just setting her up well. Sabalenka hasn't been able to get anything so far from these forehands on the run. Anytime that Gauff has her moving in that direction, just seems to be a point for Gauff anyway. Of course, that's not really part of Aryna's strengths, to turn defense into offense, if you may. And it also requires usually a forehead cross from Gauff. But as I said, like when she has a high ball, she's actually faring okay. So it's when she has to generate a lot herself that's more so the issue. And that's the set for Aryna Sabalenka. First serve is in, the return is not. And it took a long while. It took a lot longer than at some point we thought it would. But eventually she manages to get over the line, despite being in deep, deep trouble at some point as well. 5-6 love 30 on return. So it basically it basically required just one or two good serves from Gauff to get her over the line, but she actually didn't end up finding them at these, in these moments. Did I put on my sunscreen? No, I don't put on sunscreen at home. I don't even know if I have sunscreen, to be honest with you. But I only hate sun because it's, I don't have any curtains or drapes because I'm living on the 7th floor and there's no, I could install something, but I don't really feel the need to, because every single block of flats or every single house in the neighborhood is like 4 floors high, tops. So basically outside my window, there's no one that could see me anyway, unless they brought like binoculars probably wouldn't be enough. But anyway, unless they had some equipment, but I don't really care about it, I suppose. So it only really irritates me that the position in which my laptop is in for streaming, it does pretty much directly shine on its screen. So yeah, that is my idea. What else was there in the chat? I'm just Jan Choinski was mentioned for some reason. Fair enough. Not sure why, but we can always talk about Jan Choinski if someone wants to. Although, honestly, he's not necessarily the most talented player in the world either. I would maybe even say a bit overranked at the moment. And yeah, Coco Gauff, one of the best servers in the game with 0 aces and 6 double faults. No, but actually, Ghosty, Coco Gauff was serving very well. It's just that the double faults, but like you can't really say that she wasn't serving well when it comes to her first serves. She was, the fact that you make a simple mistake, I guess, as a double fault on 6 points doesn't take away from the 40 that you played right? I know it was Jake watching Jan Choinski. Okay, the German, Polish, British combo. As Jan was, of course, is Koblenz born and raised in Germany, but now represents Great Britain, where his mother is from, but his dad is Polish. This isn't the best level, guys. Not enjoying it at all, says Jake. I mean, it kind of was until 5-2. It was really good, I think. But later on, it was a mess. But I think, again, the storyline is compelling. So it makes up for that, I believe. Similarly to the Kostyuk Gauff match, which was actually enjoyable. Sean was asking if Saba was the favorite with the bookies. Yes, and actually a pretty sizable amount. More than at the US Open, when it was like marginal, or maybe even Gauff was a little bit of a favorite. Like it was definitely very close at the US Open, but here Sabalenka was a pretty decent favorite. I think even maybe to a point that was too much. But of course, I was one of these people who thought that Sabalenka was going to win. But yeah. John is on floor 10. I'm definitely not beating that. Although my godmother lives on floor 11, but I don't know if she's on the stream. Probably not. Although she does use my podcasting and streaming as an excuse whenever she tells me that she didn't call me for some reason. She always says that, I don't know when you have your podcast or some recordings. And I just say, phone isn't exactly mandatory, right? Like if my phone calls, I don't have to respond to it right away. But it's a good excuse. I have to give her that, Anyway, it's a breakpoint right away for Aryna Sabalenka. Deep return at Coco's feet. She can't quite handle it. Tries to crouch a bit, but no. To no avail. And let's see, as this is a second serve, she also retosses. Maybe further sort of signifying some issues with the nerves here. She does put it in play, though. And Sabalenka is like a little less aggressive than usual. Gets a nice angle on the backhand, even if it wasn't fully controlled. And she's at the net again, and she's going to mess it up. I mean, I don't even know what she's doing right now. I don't even know why she's going there, but it's a bit hilarious to watch her at the net today, for sure. It's like you have two completely different people, Sabalenka, it's like the meme with the dogs, right? Where there's this like small dog and then the big one. So it's actually the other way around, because the first image should be the big dog. And that's Sabalenka off the ground, that strong, bulked up dog. And then the smaller, the puppy, is her at the net. Like you can just literally see in her full body language, you can see how much she is just out of sorts, out of her element, whenever she steps over that service line. And to be fair, Gauff hasn't been much better. Like this is another example of that here. She gets a couple of volleys that you can easily put away here. I guess the first Sabalenka slice was a little tricky, but then this forehand volley, for example, yeah, it just gives the control back to Sabalenka. But yeah, I still have to say that Sabalenka has been much worse at the net. No, just let's be clear, okay? Yeah, whatever Gauff is doing here, whatever Gauff did, I mean, she still at least made Sabalenka hit a couple of shots to get the point. And that's Coco with an ace out wide to save the second break point. Again, second serve though. Sabalenka tries to slice her forehand return out of nowhere, dumps it into the middle of the net. I mean, of course, she was chopping a lot of returns earlier, but they were on first serve, not on second. Not sure what exactly she was going for here. But anyhow, it is game point Gauff now. Jesus, the sun is horrible. Maybe I really do hate sun. Or maybe I should change my streaming position for... Well, actually, it's only a problem like rather at this hour. I think it's actually about to be outside my window. So I think it should be fine in the, let's say, in like 15 minutes or something. But yeah, during the Australian Open, during these night session streams, it certainly hasn't been too easy to handle, if you may. Now it's Gauff with the easy smash. Yes, she's going to do it. Yeah, I think this one even Sabalenka would have made. Ghosty was also asking about Poland's architecture, interestingly. Does Poland have all that severe USSR style architecture? I saw some of that in Mongolia. I don't know if I would compare it to Mongolia. You might see it like in Warsaw, for example, because it was, of course, rebuilt after the war. A lot of that was Soviet money, so I think you might see a lot of that style. The city I live in was actually built in like 1920s as well, so you might get that here too. Well, not necessarily because of the Russian influence, but just because that was the style at the time. For my block of flats was probably built around the 70s, I would assume, based on the architectural style. That's what in the communist era was brought up here most of the time. These very cheap spaces, which of course right now aren't cheap anymore at all. Communal flats. Anyway, Gauff double faulted, now gets another smash in. Oh, and she will make this forehand volley. Again, maybe that technique looked a little shaky, but who cares? It was definitely much better than her previous attempt to close off a point at the net. She gets another game point in this messy game that could actually have some big implications into the rest of the set, or it might not, or it might just be another one of these where even at 5-2 the set doesn't feel over. It ain't over till it's over. That's what I think Iga Świątek tweeted after her match against Daniel Collins, and then Linda Noskova tweeted the same after her third round match. No, actually, she didn't, but it would be funny if she did. And Gauff claims that first game eventually. It took a bit longer than maybe it had to, but she's there. She's there, and she's not falling down in the score yet. What's that? First serves unreturned. Previous rounds 44% for Sabalenka, and here only 20%. So we see that there's not that much damage that Sabalenka is doing of her first serves compared to the previous matches, which I do think is just the quality of the opposition, right? It's just Coco being a much better returner than the likes of Krejcikova, Fruchvirtova. Surenko theoretically has amazing return stats, but of course she actually didn't win a single game against Sabalenka, and I do think that the Surenko return game is a little overrated. She's just pretty solid off the ground as a whole, but is she actually that good a returner? I'm not too sure on that. Yeah, Sabalenka clinched that game with a started this game with a +1 forehand winner. Now it's the backhand side. Here I'm a little surprised that Coco actually didn't even attempt to chase it. I guess she was really expecting her to go cross. Maybe wasn't expecting her to change directions after that heavy return, or like pretty heavy return. Big serve and a drive volley. Yeah, when she can just cap it off with that first drive, Sabalenka is fine at the net. But once she actually has to play like a regular forehand volley, or I don't think she's really played any backhand ones. It's always a drive then, but she's played a couple of forehand volleys that were just absolutely horrific. But when she can just finish off the point with that first drive, then probably she's gonna do fine most of the time. Anyway, 1 game all. Pretty quick game for Sabalenka. 1 unreturned serve, 3 very short points. And we are back at even in the second set. Of course, Sabalenka being in a bit of a prime position, having won the opener, and just with more margin. Would Sabalenka benefit from having a drop shot due to Coco defending deep behind the baseline, or is that too difficult with her grip? Interesting. I think for the most part, she wouldn't really be able to make use of it that much in this one. Like I think in most positions that you could sort of imagine her playing the drop shot here, she can just finish off the point otherwise. Like I think if she's making all of these weird errors, then probably the drop shot would be still a bit clumsy to play. Gauff isn't also like playing that far behind the baseline for the most part, I guess. Like she might be when she's defending some smashes, but I think for the most part she wouldn't, like, especially on a faster court, the drop shot just doesn't come up all that much. I guess a good example of that is like Marozsan, who's, one of his trademark is drop shots, but when you watch him at the Australian Open, he's going to play like 5 of them in the entire match. When you watch him at Roland Garros, he's going to play 25. Most of the time, it would be suitable still to like just go for a big blast and finish off the point this way. I just don't really see any situations in these points where like, oh, if she had a drop shot, then here that would be insane. But most of the time, it would definitely be more beneficial for her to have a real net game rather than a drop shot, I think. And by a real net game, I mean, yeah, just be a little more comfortable there and be able to put away anything that's not that first forehand drive, basically. Think that's going to be out, so it's a quick game for Coco. Saba always this bad at the net, says John, and he would like to be her coach. Well, yeah, she's not too comfortable. I mean, we've definitely seen players just lure her there as well, right? And in a matchup like this, it will come up because you have to finish off the points one way or another against someone as fast as Coco. And if you're unable to do it in any other way, you might end up at the net a few times. So it's like the Soribes Tormo matchup in a way. Is the sun already done? No. It will keep bothering us for a few more minutes, or actually just me. I don't suppose it's bothering you, but it is bothering me a little bit. Saba needs this in straights. Yeah, as I said earlier, I do think that of course she has a bit more margin here, but like if it goes to the third set, you do not trust her mentally. Yes. Now? Yeah, now I can watch again. I think Kirit going with the Gauff in free prediction, given what he's watched so far. Yeah, I can understand that. It does feel like Sabalenka can go away mentally much more easily than Coco. She also has a style that's like requires more concentration to execute, I suppose. And there was a question, something else that I missed, but that's in a second. Yeah, Gauff throwing out this backhand return. If roof is shut, what first serve percentage should we expect? 70%. The roof is shut. Does the roof actually impact your first serve percentage? I mean, it could a little bit, but it's not that big a deal, really, when it comes to first serve percentage, you know? You also might be going for different serves too, so I guess that's a factor. But yeah, I don't think it's that big a deal. Matthew also says that if the game is long, it's gonna be advantage Gauff. Interestingly, Jake throwing in Benoit pair into female players good at the net. Benoit pair had a very Benoit pair match today. Yesterday, 90 minutes. And it was a free setter. He won the first set 6-3 and then lost 0-6, 1-6. There's a lot of things you can say about me, Jake, but not that I'm energetic, probably. Or at least not on these streams. No, Ghosty, I'm not going to UTS Oslo. That competition does not interest me whatsoever. Again, Sabalenka at the net, and yeah, I mean, she was kind of forced to maybe by one of these short-air balls that Coco got her. I don't think on purpose either. She just, that's the way she figured out a response to one of the deeper strikes from Aryna. But then the approach shot just could have been much better. And again, I even can't really criticize the forehand volley technique here because she just wasn't in good position, right? She was too far away from the net to really think of hitting a shot like this here, I think. And a big serve again from Aryna. Apparently, Jake is the Welsh Ivo Karlovic, and yes, I am an Ivo Karlovic fan, to Ghosty's question. And there's something about the unforced errors. I mean, on the Australian Open website, we have it. I can tell you, I hopefully, because yesterday the stroke summary section wasn't working, but I can probably tell you how many unforced errors Gauff, or forced errors as well for that matter, because you're mentioning hammering the forehand, but you wanted unforced errors. So I can tell you that when it comes to the Gauff forehand or backhand. But the thing about the Gauff forehand actually is that if you just hammer it, sometimes it's going to hold up really well actually defensively. Like she's just going to make the motion a bit more compact, and like she's not actually going to have to come up with much spin or pace herself, and she might react pretty well. Whereas, for example, that 5-6 game, or from Sabalenka's perspective, where she broke back in the first set, it was actually just giving the ball to Coco and seeing what she can do with it. And then she was trying to, for example, on that break point, right, produce a pretty spin-heavy forehand, like near the baseline. And that's when she's going to screw up. So it's not that obvious. I actually think she might even have a similar amount of errors, probably. No, actually, the stroke summary section is not working again. So yeah, I basically cannot tell you that. After all. By the way, when it comes to shot rallies over 9 shots, Gauff has an 8-1 lead, which is pretty interesting. Of course, Sabalenka has 1 more points in general, and well, her lead in the shorter exchanges, which are much more common, makes this stat pretty relevant, but still. No way that's true that I'm a Karlovic fan. No, I absolutely am a Karlovic fan. Of course, right now he's retired, but there used to be like seasons when I would watch every single Ivo Karlovic match. Definitely some painful losses there as well, like the Washington one against Monfils, where he had his chance at the ATP 500 title and missed, I think, a match point, and he served for it as well. But yeah, I did find his style very enjoyable. I like serve and volleying. I guess especially like Dr. Ivo was just fun. He was slicing every backhand, of course. When he hit like a good flat forehand, you would be like, "Oh wow, he can actually do it!" Basically, anytime he would win a point in any other way, but the serve and the volleying. And by the way, the volleying technique was very underrated. Anytime he won a point other than the serve and volleying, like with a winner of any sort, you would be like, "Oh wow, he can actually produce. He can actually find a shot like this," and it would be like a bit of a fun experience for me. Of course, the win over Novak in Doha, that was something. These highlights I've watched a billion times. It was a bit painful later in the next round that he lost to Federer in 3 tiebreaks, but still, I got quite a lot of good Karlovic watching memories. I don't know if there's actually any other like classic serve and volleyer that I enjoyed this much. Cressy against the top seed, yes, but in general, no, not really. Or maybe against someone like Jumhur, or when they played in Danderid, someone with that sort of hand skills and the ability to pass lob, and that a fun clash of styles. But Karlovic I just enjoyed against everyone really. But yeah, other serve and volleyers I probably only enjoy with a fun clash of styles. Looks like Sabalenka will take the next game as well, so like a bit of normality has been restored to this match, I suppose. Do I run serve and volley in real life? As a random tactic from time to time, yes. Not in general. Like I would like to do it more. I just don't have a serve that's big enough, I believe, and I also don't feel that comfortable at the net. So, but I would like to do it more. Yeah, I would like to throw it more. I sometimes go for it. Just I don't know, try to find a good out wide angle, especially on the at side, and it feels good when it works out. But I do mess up quite a lot there as well. So 40 love up, I will sometimes try to go for it as well. But yeah, I would like to play more like that. Yeah, I do find it very enjoyable. Need to get down to meet Dr. Ivo. I'm a little awkward. I don't know if I would actually like to meet my idols, if that makes sense. But he's super funny, so it would probably be fine. He is definitely the humor was amazing. Yeah, Stefan Edberg was too early for me. I never watched Stefan Edberg on court, live or anything. I got to know Stefan Edberg as the Federer coach probably more so than as a player. Of course, I've seen some matches, clips, but not necessarily. I more or less know what his game was all about. The sort of average forehand and the amazing backhand, which is pretty rare. The volleying, the skills, but yeah, Stefan Edberg was not someone I had the chance to watch on the court, and Pete Sampras neither. But I do like Pete, definitely. I do like his matches quite a lot. Yeah, that Billie Jean King reaction was interesting. I think she was actually disappointed with Gauff losing the point. That's what it seemed to me, but I don't know. That's an interesting question, Ghosty, because I was actually thinking about it when you were saying that. Yeah, I'm probably more so just standing closer to the middle of the court. However, from time to time, I like to position myself a little better for the out wide angle. I think it does give you a better shot at making it. And then sometimes you can also surprise by going T from that point. But it also depends on like my opponent and whether he spots it, because sometimes the opponents will not really show it, will not really even notice, right? So I've definitely had matches in the past where I would like, go a little more wide and they don't even see it, and then they get aced out wide. But generally speaking, I like the T serve on the deuce side and the out wide on the outside. So I try to sort of position myself accordingly as well to have these two easier. So closer to the middle on the deuce side and closer and sort of just a little further away from the middle on the outside. Anyway, Coco Gauff claims this point, which was actually quite crucial at 15-30. She has to put away a forehand volley, but she's not the player in this match who's having massive issues with that. Sabalenka a little frustrated. And it seems like we'll be getting a breakpoint now. So Aryna Sabalenka might be getting another lead in this match, unless Gauff can come up with a big serve here, maybe. It's been a while, I guess, in this game since she found something. And yeah, it's a second serve too. Sabalenka is, of course, right there, already thinking about how she's gonna attack it. Yeah, that's not so good. That's not so good. That definitely feels like a makeable return, but I think she kind of played with herself there as well. If that makes sense, like she tried to step around it with the backhand, then actually then get a clean hit, whereas maybe if she just took it as it was, it would have been fine. And now Gauff fights an ace, so that's a good recovery from 30-40 down if she can just keep winning points in this game. If she can just get one more point and still be on serve in the second, because of course we still haven't had any breaks in the second set. A sort of like more regular course of action has been restored to this match. But given what we saw in the first set, even when someone would lead like 5-3 now, we certainly wouldn't be giving them the set already, and we would still be anxious to see what would happen next. Gauff had Sabalenka on the move for a little moment there, but eventually the point is back to neutral, but it's Sabalenka who cracks first. So 4-3 Gauff. Borg McEnroe movie with Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, I didn't really like it because I think it really sort of goes into that McEnroe and Borg, like how they're very different, and how McEnroe is just this, he doesn't work, basically. He doesn't practice whatsoever. He's just like this chill dude and yeah, like this funny, angry guy. And Borg at the same time is like this, closed off personality and just hits at his garage, basically, his garage door, basically. And I think it was I think it's literally called Borg McEnroe. Yeah, basically, I think it just really goes for that comparison. And it kind of just makes it seem like McEnroe, for example, doesn't practice whatsoever, whereas Borg is like this super hard worker. And, it really goes to sort of show the contrast between them, which of course was there, I'm not saying that it wasn't. But as a whole, I think the movie just sort of goes too deep into it. I still haven't seen King Richard. I can't really tell you if there's a tennis movie that I like. Because what else is there really? There's Battle of the Sexes, right, with Emma Stone. I also haven't watched that. I haven't watched King Richard. I have it on my hard drive since forever, but haven't really got around to it. I guess I'm not really too interested in it. Like you guys know the way I enjoy tennis. Like it's really mostly watching matches. I like the backstory around the players. I'm less interested in that, and of course, there will never be a movie which will like be going into very deep match breakdowns, because then it wouldn't be really catered to like a global audience, and I understand that for sure. So And now, after having that breakpoint in the previous game, we might have Sabalenka falling into some major trouble. She's love 30 down. She just missed a backhand down the line. And this is the moment when the pressure mounts up a little. Let's see how she manages to survive it. I mean, in a way, she never really was in that position in the first set. I guess she was in that 6-5 love 30 game, right? Oh, yeah, that's somewhat lucky. Sabalenka's easy put away forehand clips the net and still falls into the court. I think, it's a little less lucky maybe than usual because it didn't really change where the ball was flying. It just barely clipped the net. But of course, anytime the ball does that, it really could have gone in many different directions. But she survives here. But in a way, Sabalenka was never really in a position like this in the first set, is basically what I'm trying to say, because she was in the early lead. She lost it, but then she also has one chance to regain it, but it's so close to the end of the set, whereas here it would still be 5-3. So we'll see how she handles herself in that sort of moment. This was good. This was good. She recovers from a deep forehand position. She manages to get Gauff on the run again, and then finishes it off with this forehand, which actually felt like it had a lot of margin on it. She wasn't risking it too much here, and that's good for her that she didn't fall into the trap. But anyway, still 30 all, so still Gauff 2 points away from breaking, or 1 point from getting an opportunity to break. So it's not exactly over yet. The return from Gauff was really good. Sabalenka did she did overtake very quickly. And the moment there's no pace on the response from Gauff, because as long as she's countering, as long as she's getting these balls back in with interest, she's probably going to be fine. But the moment she just barely catches that forehand and it sits up, that backhand, and it sits up for Sabalenka, then it's simply up to Aryna to make the final shot. And this time again, she does it, sort of with real perfect margin, I think, as well. But it has to be said that the first serve is not giving Sabalenka much. Gauff's return skills have definitely been a major aspect of why this match is close. And still, she saves herself, Sabalenka, here from love 30, which actually was a display of mental strength this time. But we'll see if that is actually maintained. 7-6, 4 games all. Still no breaks in the second set, although both players have now had a chance. I mean, it wasn't a break point for Gauff, but it was a love 30, with actually Sabalenka having to make quite a few shots, whereas Sabalenka had the break point at 3 games all, right? Yeah. And Aryna also finally won some longer rallies, it seems. It's now 9-3 in that breakdown. But of course, it's just not the most relevant as a whole, because most of the rallies are going to end much quicker than that. Unless it's a match like, what was it that we were watching not so long ago, where it was really close? Oh, Medvedev-Hurkacz, I think, where there were a lot of longer rallies, obviously. So they actually had more impact on the result of the match than they usually do. There's also the Challengers movie coming up, right? Which is, I think, also starring... Oh, no, it's starring Zendaya, right? But it's not about the Challenger Tour. So it's probably not for me. But yeah, I don't think I can really tell you that there's a tennis movie that I ever enjoyed. And now Sabalenka steps into that return, so maybe she's gonna turn the previous game, all the drama and the great tennis that she had to show under pressure there. Maybe she's actually gonna turn it into a break herself here. Big return down the line, 15-30 now. And Coco doesn't find the first serve. Okay, second serve ace. I mean, nice. Sabalenka just expecting a regular kicker to her backhand, or maybe at the body, just like Coco has played already a few times. But yeah, it's a second serve ace, actually, down the tee. It wasn't too fast either, 100 and something. I don't know. I can't even see it from right now. But yeah, Sabalenka even claps her racket, claps her head against the racket in appreciation. However, the next point is one where Gauff should be clapping her racket, I suppose, as this is Sabalenka with that great forehand return cross that she's already employed a few times, and then the backhand finish for a pretty stunning point that gives her not another break point if you count the free-all game. But now it's Coco with another very quick rally, or not even a rally, in fact. I mean, it's just a big serve and a +1 backhand winner, but she does make it look routine for sure, despite taking it very early. But yeah, these last few games, definitely it feels like the pressure has been upped, the tension has gone up. And now every single point, honestly, might have major implications in regards to the rest of the clash to the rest of this Australian Open semi-final. Yeah, and that's the forehand of Gauff still breaking down a little bit here. It is visible how often like she just doesn't execute that motion properly, right? Like she just completely tears it off in the middle, I suppose. But of course, every single other part of her game pretty much is quite elite, and she's able to survive with it. It's also not that easy to target it, as I said earlier. Sometimes just hammering into it doesn't necessarily have to give you much. But yeah, Sabalenka, big backhand return. Again, backhand cross, and Gauff is not going to make that shot. So Sabalenka will serve for the match, provided, the previous game when she served for the opening set was a bit rough from 30-15. Who knows? I mean, maybe she's not going to do it. It definitely doesn't feel like it's over, but it's been a while. I mean, in this set, Sabalenka is yet to drop serve, so she's actually held 4 consecutive times. So this is a nice opportunity for her to try to do it. We'll see if she manages to. Yeah, and after all the stats from the second set came in, they're actually winning a lot of points on their second serves as well. So it has definitely returned to normal, this match in the second set, I would say, after the crazy finish of the opener. Sabalenka now 11 and 20 at the net, so she did get that percentage to go up a little bit. But yeah, I guess if this is where it ends, then we will probably have this. Well, there's going to be a lot of things to unpack here, but definitely the Gauff forehand, like the main moment when it failed her this match was the 5-6 game, right? It was the 6-5 game in the first. So actually probably the most important moment as well. So we'll see how that goes. But if she loses the match here, that's probably the moment she will be looking back at and sort of not capitalizing on the fact that Sabalenka was at that point very off and kind of couldn't get 2 balls in play. Big first serve. And she cleans it up as well. So 15 love, 3 points away from the match, and her second Australian Open final. And now we're seeing the double fault. It's come in again. I mean, honestly, Sabalenka has 2 maybe in this entire match, but they've been they've come in really important moments. And yeah, if that happens, like if she's not double faulting the entire match, but they only come, in the most important games, that kind of tells you the whole story of how, nerves are involved. But that's an ace, and that's going to help, of course. Great angle, not that much when it comes to the power, but basically on the line out wide. Not much you can do about it. This totally should be a Sabalenka point, but this is the moment when she starts missing these +1 forehands. And I think this was also a partially a footwork thing. She really didn't set up well for this. And then again, that's just nerves. That's really tension. You can see that she's still struggling to hold up when it comes to the crunch, but maybe she's gonna be given a helping hand here. First serve goes in and Gauff misses a forehand return into the net. So maybe these issues that Sabalenka is again experiencing, maybe they're not gonna matter. Backhand cross, forehand down the line, and Sabalenka is still hitting against the Gauff defense. She's gonna try to go for this forehand down the line, Gauff, and she manages to do it. Yeah, that's a very nice match point save. I mean, if she's going to win the match, that's gonna be remembered for sure. But she takes it early. Again, this is an example of why it's not exactly like hammering the Gauff forehand isn't always gonna give you much. But of course, it was right for Aryna to play there on a big point. It still can break down, and definitely in a pressure moment like this. But that's a very good shot from Gauff, and there's an ace from Sabalenka. So the serving is actually helping her out big time in this game. Already 2 free points, maybe 3 if you count the forehand return that Gauff missed into the net, which was like probably on the verge of a good serve against a return that you could make possibly, because you can possibly make that return, but it's still a first serve. It's not that easy. And that serve is also in. This time Gauff is not going to make it. So Sabalenka survives, and it's really, even though it's straight, like it's a bit of a survival effort. It does feel like it, for sure. There's a warm hug at the net, and that's over. Aryna Sabalenka in the Australian Open final for the 2nd year in a row. I think Coco will win the French, says someone in the chat. Will she? I mean, I would still go Świątek. I think she has a horrible matchup with Iga still, despite that one loss. But there's going to be quite a lot of pressure on Świątek to win the French for sure. So last year she wasn't fully like handling it in the final. So maybe. I don't know if Ghosty is sarcastic about that warm hug, but I think it was pretty warm. Like usually we see players, especially on the WTA, I think a little less pleasant to themselves after the match, I think. But yeah, Zendaya is probably not following the Challenger Tour, as he said. BJK looks gutted. I mean, she was just rooting for... Oh, and we have someone here on our screens. Is the person about to say something? Or okay, the person is about to say something. Perhaps give his take on the match, or we're gonna just talk about what that means. And yeah, basically 7-6, 6-4 Sabalenka. Still a decent performance, but she did have to battle her nerves. BJK is American, Ghosty, and I think that's probably what's leading her in that way.
How are you?
I can't hear you. Oh, no, that's a me problem. Never mind. I had my sound turned off.
It's okay. I'm going to turn my microphone on as well.
Although I still haven't turned it on for some reason.
Do you hear me all right?
Why can't I turn it on now is the question. But okay, now I can hear you. Yes, I forgot that I turned it on. I turned it off.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Yeah. Now I can hear you.
Okay. I really enjoyed that match. I know Jake was saying at one point during the first set or towards the end of the first set, like he thought it wasn't that great. But I thought that the first 5 or 6 games were of a high quality. It only started to fall apart when Sabalenka was trying to close it out, and that provided the drama, that provided tension. And then in the tiebreak, I think the quality went back up again. I guess this could be a confirmation bias theory. Are you familiar with this, Damien, by the way, this notion of confirmation bias?
I guess I know what you mean.
When you have a sort of idea before you see something and then it confirms your idea. So
you're just sort of watching out for that, basically.
Exactly, and what I'm getting at is it was like, this is kind of up to Sabalenka. Saying it's on her racket is maybe a slight exaggeration, but it sort of felt before the match and then at times during the match that if Sabalenka could just keep it together, a bit like the US Open final, she wins the match, because ultimately she's one of only 2 or 3 players on the tour, or certainly in the upper echelons of the game, who can go through Coco. I mean, I saw the winners going through her at times, and there weren't like a bunch of them, but it was like, yeah, she can do that, whereas other players on the tour can't. And so I just felt that was the case from start to finish, that her peak would probably be enough. It was just a case of whether she could maintain it. And to be honest with you, the peak from Sabalenka was there for 7 games, and it was there again during the tiebreak, and it was there again during the second set, where I think both players were approaching their peak as long as Sabalenka could avoid the net. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a whole, you cannot really say that Sabalenka didn't have good moments under pressure in this match. Definitely not. Like, the tiebreak, as you said, like, it was pretty masterful. So I guess it's a bit of a similar story to her previous, semifinals, finals the last year or so, right? So like there's arguments both sides, but eventually she was feeling the pressure quite a lot. I think the quality in the first 7 games was awesome, maybe 8 even. The Gauff hold at 2-5 was really good. Then of course Sabalenka just completely loses control over her shots, like for 3 games more or less. I think actually the 5-6 game probably is more so a Gauff problem than the Sabalenka,
getting 30 love,
regaining it back. 30 love, and also the fact that this was like the one big deep of the Gauff forehand that we saw. The couple of errors that she makes there, the one on the breakpoint especially. I would say that this is perhaps the moment that Coco has to look back upon, and that's the moment where she kind of lost the match. But of course, that wouldn't have happened if Sabalenka.
Point. I don't remember that point so clearly. The 30 love point.
The 30 love point, I don't remember it either, but the break point, I do remember.
Did she put a forehand long?
One of the previous points definitely had another messy forehand, but the break point especially was yet another one where she just doesn't produce it, well at all. She just messes up in the stroke production. And that was probably the one big forehand deep really from Gauff the entire match, because again, like when there's a lot of pressure on it, she usually can actually handle herself, like with that speed, with that athleticism. She was returning very well for sure. But of course, it doesn't have to mean that one game doesn't have to mean that she loses the match. It kind of did, because Aryna recovered from that mentally, and eventually she was obviously fine, especially in the tiebreak, but also in the second set. Some issues to hold at the end as well, but the serve really got her out of trouble there in the 5-4 game, right in the second when she's serving it out. So as a whole, of course, mentally it's a massive win for Sabalenka. I understand the confirmation bias thing. I've sort of definitely had it in the past, where you start watching a matchup with a certain idea in mind, and then you're just sort of just watching out for this, and you don't have a clear mind. You're not actually looking at the match and what the patterns of play are. but you're actually just sort of noticing the stuff that would definitely confirm your theories. I don't know if this was the case here. Like, I think this matchup we had a very clear idea on, even at the US Open. It was very similar here. But yeah, if we had question marks in regards to whether Gauff can put enough pressure on Sabalenka to make her sort of go through these woes, go through these wobbles again, yes, she absolutely did. She did play well enough to pull it off. I think the match overall was very high quality, other than the 3 Sabalenka games, really. There was a question from Ghosty. How can Zheng hope to compete with Saba? Coco was supposed to have the cheat codes. It's pretty tough. I think it is pretty tough for her, just like the Yastremska matchup is. And yeah, we'll see how she handles it. But she basically is often overwhelmed by players like this. Like when she can't take when the first strike is taken away from her. She did that very well against Kalinskaya. Like over the course of the match, she actually managed to stay a bit closer to the baseline, respond to like Kalinskaya's shots with maybe deeper counters and not be pushed back. But the question is about Sabalenka and Yastremska. It's a different type of ball striking to Kalinskaya, right? Kalinskaya is like all about that early timing. Kalinskaya and Yastremska, Sabalenka and Yastremska, I think, are pretty similar actually in that they hit so much heavier. So I do question Zheng's ability to win against Sabalenka in the final. I do. Maybe Yastremska would actually have even a stronger shot. Who knows?
I'm going to leave in 60 seconds, and then I'm going to high-five Mario as I leave. You and Mario, especially, I want to hear what Mario thought of that match. All I'll say to you both is 5, 10. I don't mind how many minutes you talk about that match for. I'm more than happy to hear you all day, but just keep an eye on Yastremska and Zheng, because if they start their match, and
honestly, I think I've said it also. Like, if Mario wants to talk for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, that's his call. Great. But I think I've said it all basically.
But I have one more thing to say, and that is regarding that ghosty question comment is, does Coco quite have the cheat codes? I think she has it in terms of making Aryna hit another ball, but that scoreline that you can see here and that match that we've just seen is maybe, like, just putting a negative spin on this for Sabalenka, it's pretty much full of positives, I think, is maybe that scoreline you see to my side there is the scoreline that could have and should have happened in the US Open final. If Saba had just sort of maintained the level in the first set. So I'm not entirely sure that Coco has the cheat codes. I think Coco will be a threat at every slam and will get to semifinals and finals. But I think there's probably, she needs to probably improve a little bit more in terms of her game to be a regular slam finalist, semi-finalist, or even winner than maybe Sabalenka does. Anyway, I've said what I have to say. I think her against Zheng, if it is the final, could be interesting.
By the way, she was supposed to have the cheat codes for what? I don't really get it.
To beat Sabalenka. I think it's like she had the cheat code to figure out and to make Sabalenka get anxious and basically beat her. Anyway, listen, I want Mario to share his thoughts, and then we'll have the other match.
Yeah, sure. Hi, first of all. No, well, my opinion is that this match, at least in terms of, the scoring, if you was telling me 7-6, 6-4 for Sabalenka, given what I also was watching from them before this match, I would have believed. I would have believed that, and I think that it was probably the most probable, kind of scoreline we could have expected if we consider, just the level Sabalenka was playing at, but still the fact that Gauff can make things complicated for her. I think that despite this messy first set, we had Sabalenka was quite comfortably ahead, and then there's been that moment when Gauff had that positive streak, was actually 2 points away from holding first set. But I feel like overall this is a positive match for Sabalenka. It was the first very, very top opponent she was facing at this tournament. Krejcikova is a very solid one, also can play some very good matches, but it's another kind of level against Gauff, especially because Gauff has what it takes to make Sabalenka feel more pressure to close the point and rush things more. So I would say that it's a positive thing for Sabalenka to have managed to stay calm, played a great tiebreak. Second set pretty well. She was almost perfect as serve, because she only had one love 30, and then she went to deuce while serving for the match, but overall she hasn't conceded a single break point. So in the second set, I mean. So I think that from Sabalenka perspective, this is an encouraging match. She will be, of course, the favorite in the final, because I kind of agree with what you were saying about Zheng and Yastremska, but still this, of course, won't change the fact that Aryna enters the court as a heavy favorite this time. And probably the first time there's maybe such a difference between, in terms of Aryna was probably the favorite in both the slam finals she played, but not probably at the level she will be on Saturday. Whoever wins between Zheng and Yastremska, who of course will have their shots, but for the way she carried herself throughout the tournament, the fact that she is also the defending champion, proved to be playing unbelievable in Melbourne. I think, of course, she will be the heavy favorite for the final. So let's see what it's going to happen. As for Gauff, after winning her first slam as the US Open, we can consider this round pretty good, even if she hasn't really beaten a top 10 player or something like that. But still, backing up a major win with a slam semi-final is, I think, still something to look at in a positive way. Of course, in these big matches, of course, she won, the most important of her career so far at the US Open. I mean, she had lost the French Open final, but still, I'm considering the US Open the most important also because she was, 1 year with 1 year of experience more. So she was not facing Iga of that winning streak. So, I feel that something that she can still try to do a little bit heavier on the court, maybe with her shots. She is definitely running a lot in these matches. She can do it very well, but maybe at times it cannot be enough against a player with the Sabalenka's power. Still, the match has been close in the end, even if it had not been 3 sets. Let's say that I think that for both, even for Gauff, we can see some positives because still she got a solid result, and overall, I feel like she also played overall a good match, even if without maybe all what it should have taken her to take a set of Sabalenka or even to win. Still she was very close to make things pretty interesting by just holding that service game. She was 30-love in the first set. I think that she can be quite satisfied, even if of course there's still something that can be at times maybe approached in a different way. But overall, I think that it would be too harsh to say a lot about Gauff today.
Fingers. So obviously now Sabalenka is not getting to number 1 if she wins the Australian Open because she's defending her 2,000 points. Double faults. This is a very underrated stat, overrated stat here, I think, because basically 6 of them were like in the first 4 service games for Coco. So obviously they were inconsequential really to the result of the match, I believe. And later on, of course, she also like had a lot of pressure on her to try going for her second serve. And when it comes to the cheat codes, I understand what you mean, Ghosty, But given that Sabalenka was still like a pretty big favorite, it's kind of hard to call them cheat codes. But is this a way in which you can beat Sabalenka? Yes, but are there others? Probably. On these courts, I don't know, actually. For example, in Cancun, we saw that Djokovic performance from Świątek. We'll see if maybe on some other slower courts it's going to happen as well. I don't know about the Aryna semi-final take, John. Like, this was actually a match perhaps more only proving that she has these Grand Slam nerves. I mean, there was 3 games, really, that she played poorly in the entire match. And I mean, she was so nervy there. And it's not like she was really, I think, making a lot of these forehand errors like someone here mentions. Like, she was just way too nervy to play. Like, she was just unable to keep balls in play for 3 games. And also even the last game, really, if it wasn't for the serve, again, we see another shaky hold or a shaky break maybe when she's trying to serve it out. So these nerves were there. Thankfully for her, she managed to get it done. She manages to get into the Australian Open final. And as we said earlier, she is going to be the favorite regardless of who she plays. We'll see, but hopefully it's still a competitive final, though, on Saturday. Anyway, let's...
Yeah, we're going to see. I mean, for sure, till now, the 2 finals Sabalenka has played have really been competitive. Of course, the opponents were different, but, you know, if she has a performance like the US Open one... I think it can be pretty tight, more or less against everyone, even because I felt like in that US Open final, when she was up 6-2, she won the first set 6-2. She was not playing really, really good, you know. It was overall a bad match by both sides till that point. Then Gauff improved a little bit just because, you know, Sabalenka starting, you know, just mistaking everything even more. Let's see what's going to happen, but I feel like this time she will be pretty tough to stop. I feel like even if she was nervy today, you know, maybe there's something also different here. She has this confidence that she's able to make it somehow in, you know, that can help you to reset and to keep going regardless of, you know, the mistake you've just made or you know, something that's stuck in her head, like, you know, in the US Open final.
All right, I guess this will be it then. We've probably said it all. As I said, I don't really have any more takes, Mario, unless you have something to say. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I've said it all, even because, you know, I was at the doctor. I followed the match through, you know, the stream on my phone, so I'm not really any particular moment. You know, I have an idea of what happened, of course, but
while you were at the doctor, did he also like see you, you know, under the table where you're like still watching the
no. Inside I was. It was, you know, the first couple of 2-3 games of the second set.
No, Ghosty, I haven't reached my limit. Like, honestly, of course, we could sit here and talk for an hour about like what sort of this means going forward for Gauff. I would just be repeating a lot of the same takes that I said during the match or during the streams this week. And we still have that Jastrzębska Zheng semifinal to cover. So we're pretty much going to close shop for now. I see that they're actually already warming up, I think, because Jastrzębska will be starting the match on serve. So we will be back on the other stream in like a minute or two, basically. So see you guys there. You know where to find the stream, obviously, but maybe John can also send it in the chat or whatever. But you also know where to find it on the YouTube of Talking Tennis. See you there.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.